What's up, guys? We're going to do a live stream this beautiful Sunday. Doesn't look like anyone's in the chat just yet, so I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to set up, drop a link to this in my Discord, and, good stuff like that. Hope everyone is having a fine Sunday. In Southern California, it's an 86-degree day today. I see someone just popped in. I'm just getting set up. Give me a second here. $114 in Arizona. Love to hear that. I love Arizona. I go there all the time. Me and my friends do a lot of boating in Havasu. Absolutely beautiful place. I love it. Do you boat out there? Just curious what part you're in. Just popping out the chat. Give me a second, guys. Oh, 5 people in here now. It's crazy how quick it moves. Every time I set up one of these live streams, I'm like, man, what if no one joins, And usually within a few seconds, we got 5, 10 people. And then, within 5 minutes, we got like 40 or 50 people. It's kind of crazy how that works. That is not what I wanted to do. If you guys got questions, you can go ahead and start asking them. Otherwise, I'm going to start yapping about a new speaker I got in for review that kind of took me by surprise. I was not expecting greatness from this speaker. It's a brand I've reviewed other stuff for, and I've never been as impressed, shall we say, as other people have been. But, So Garrett says, yup, was just at Lake Pleasant yesterday. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Boating is a good time. It is an absolute good time, man. As long as you're on someone else's boat. If you're driving your own boat, comes with a little bit more stress, no doubt. You got to pay for all that gas, and that gas is not cheap. Gas is the same price for the most part as it is for your car, but boats drink that stuff, especially if you've got a little bit of power. So listen. Since there's no questions popping in, I'm going to start telling you guys a little bit about a speaker I got in for review that kind of took me by surprise. Fosse, of all people, reached out and they're like, hey, we got a speaker. Do you want to review it? And I was like, kind of surprised because my review of their amp was, lukewarm. It wasn't awful by any means, but I certainly didn't give it the raving review they've probably been used to. And I told him, I said, you know what? I like reviewing speakers a lot more than I like reviewing little desktop amps. Let's do it. It's a speaker that sells for about $399. Let me see what it's called. I see someone else just popped in. What's the emotional musical system you have heard the most? I'll get to you in a second, Ben. I'll get to you in a second. I'm telling the chat about this new speaker that's relatively affordable. That's actually pretty darn good. Let me bring it up on their website. I'll tell you guys exactly which one it is. I'll probably review it in a couple weeks here, but it's like SP something or another, I think. Doesn't look like their website has a section for speakers yet. Here we go. SP601. This Fosse SP601 speaker. Pretty good. Pretty good. If you like its tonality, of course, personal taste is always the most important thing. So it's relatively large for an affordable speaker. It's about Triangle Bro 3 sized. And it's got actually similar voicing, I'd even say, to the Triangle Bro 3 in that it's on the forward side of neutral, a little bit more of an energetic top end, more of that Bowers & Wilkins or Dolly presentation, if you will. But the treble quality is shockingly good. It's fairly refined. So it's a good high quality brightness, if you will. And then the mid-range vocals are great. They sound grand and project nicely into the room. And then the bass is so powerful, but it's kind of on the tighter side. It's fairly articulated. It was a big surprise. It was a really big surprise, that little Fosse speaker. I mean, I know the Triangle Bro 3 has a good amount of bass, but not the quality of this new Fosse SP601. That was really interesting for me. Hey, what's up, Feliciano? I see you just jumped in the chat. And again, guys, feel free to, start asking your questions. I'll get to them in just a little bit here. But yeah, and that's the speaker that's on the thumbnail of this video. So the only thing I don't love is they made the cone orange. It's just an aluminum cone, so it's just anodized. They could have made it any color or no color at all. And it's a shame because like the cabinet's got this like nice beautiful curve to it, kind of reminiscent of Q Acoustics. But then with that copper cone, it does kind of look like they're trying to capitalize off the visuals of Klipsch and Q Acoustics. So I wish it was aesthetically a little bit more unique looking, and it is unique looking, but in a way where it did not seem to borrow its design choice from two different brands, if that makes sense. All right, so Ben Gleason, what's the most emotional or musical system you have heard? I get what you're saying there. I don't keep track of things in terms of like most, because in this hobby there's a lot of stuff that can go in the same category, right? There are some times in some situations where I'll have a product that is the most, right? Like if you were to ask me a speaker that I've heard that had just the most precise imaging, I can answer that. That's the Clarity Acoustic, Radiant Acoustic Clarity 6.2. That thing images like crazy. It's just unheard of. But in terms of emotional or musical, a lot of stuff. I've heard a lot of stuff. So I'll just shout out kind of a couple of my favorites, some things that come to mind. Spendor Classic 3.1. Also keep in mind a lot of the time when we're talking about emotional and musical, we do have to understand we are giving up some of that last 10% of like ultimate resolution that we would generally get out of a more analytical system. And you got to be okay with that. But the Spendor Classic 3.1 is a speaker that really comes to mind. In terms of amplification, I haven't reviewed it yet, but I have the Unico Primo here, and that is great. The Wilsington R300 Plus tube amp was another great one that was really emotionally engaging. Most R2R DACs, like the Denafrips Aries, of course, and if we're talking DACs, you add those things all together as one system, it's going to be really musical and really emotional, right? But it's like, how much of that do you want, right? How much do you want? Like I've heard systems that were so musical, so warm, so emotionally engaging that it sounded like you were inside of an acoustic guitar. I didn't like that. It was a little bit too much for me. So it's like salt on food, right? You want to find the balance, Ben, that is right for you. And for most people, it's the balance of musical and emotional without giving up too much detail, right? Feliciano's asking if I'm into headphones. No, not at all. Not at all. So as someone who wears glasses, the big ones tend to push, kind of on the, what do you call this, the frame of your glasses, and it's not very comfortable. They also, they get you a little sweaty around the ears and around the head. I think that happens to almost everyone. So I don't like that. And then the small ones, I've got sensitive ear canals. I used to wear a lot of headphones because I travel and fly a lot. And I still do, wear them when I'm in an airplane, but I try to be more careful. I would have my inside of my ear canals start bleeding from using IEMs. My ears just don't like things being put into them. I saw a few doctors about it as well as like a audiologist, and they just simply said, hey, your ear canals, like the skin is just a little bit more sensitive. We could see some scarring from, using, in-ear monitors and things like that. And you probably just shouldn't use them. I also never have really loved the idea of IEMs or, big headphones. They've always sounded small to me. The detail is certainly remarkable. If you're a detail lover, oh man, you're the easiest and cheapest way to get a ton of detail from your sound is to just use a set of high quality headphones that are just a few $100s. And in terms of detail retrieval, they'll blow away speakers that are $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000. In terms of what I think about a headphone rig designed for music and gaming, I mean, there's a ton out there. You know what I mean? I've listened to my friends like headphone rigs that are mostly for gaming. They're like $400 rigs. And they've played music through them for me, and they sounded just fine. They tend to be a little bit thick sounding in the bass region. But you know, they're not bad. They're not bad. We got 14 people in here now. Not bad, not bad. And guys, friendly reminder, I hate being that guy, but the best way to share this live stream with more people is to hit the like button. There's only, it looks like one like on the video. Liking the video tells YouTube they should circulate it to more of my subscribers. A lot of people think like when you press like, YouTube algorithm sends it out to like non-subscribers. No, 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 no. Only a small group of my actual subscribers even know this live stream is happening. What YouTube does is they send it out to a small group of you guys, just a couple hundred. And then if people like the video, right, by clicking the thumbs up button, then YouTube is like, okay, I should circulate this to more of this person's audience. It takes a crazy amount of likes for YouTube to start recommending it outside of my own circle. So all I'm trying to get is the people in here that are already subscribed. So if you can go ahead and click the like button, I appreciate that. But yeah, the Unico Primo amp is really good too, Ben. I don't know what price categories you're shopping in these days, but that Unico Primo really is fantastic. It's crazy holographic, very emotionally engaging. It's like the Wilsonton R300 Plus in terms of emotional engagement, but just brings so much more resolution and holographics to the table. It's a very impressive piece. And it can drive just about any darn speaker too. Ben says, will you remind me of your thoughts on the Rel Classic series? Yeah, man, the Rel Classic series is great. It's for anyone that's got modern vintage or vintage speakers, you know, because it fits the look first and foremost. That Rel Classic subwoofer, I mean, it's a lot like if someone took their old favorite, you know, wood veneered subwoofer to a, you know, one of those guys that refinishes things and makes them look new and said, hey, make this thing look new. It looks like a new old stock piece from like 30 years ago. It's really remarkable how well they just nailed that thing. Build quality, you know, it's beautiful. In terms of its sound, it's a little bit slowed down in terms of its start-stop behavior. Its transient response is still very quick. It's still a Rel subwoofer, but start-stop behavior is generally what people are hearing when they say a subwoofer is quick or slow. Also, like ring, how much bloom there is to the attack. So the Classic series has a little bit more bloom to its bass, and that's a sound a lot of people like. Some people say they don't like it. Some people associate it with vented subwoofers. It's not all like all vented subwoofers do that either, and I don't think they do it in quite the same way either. The Rel Classic sounds great. I personally don't have a taste for the tightest bass in the world, nor the loosest. My taste for bass is somewhere in the middle. What I care about the most, honestly, is a good amount of extension. The Rel Classic series has a fair amount of that for their physical sizes. They do extend lower than the TX range. So if you heard the TX range, I actually did a whole video on this where I compared the 4 different Rel subwoofers. And if you really are in the market for one of them and you don't know if you should go with TX, HT, S, or Classic, definitely check out that video. But so Series TX is a little warm, just a little bit. And if you've heard Series TX and you're like, that's great, I wish it was warmer, that's Classic. If you heard Series TX and thought, that's a little warm, I don't like it, I want a less warm sound, that's Series HT. Series HT is going to be a more dry sound. But yeah, no, they're good. They make good stuff, man. JHM, what's up, man? One of our Discord moderators. Nice to see you in here, brother. He says, hi, Nemo. I finally managed to catch a stream. Yes, you have. Welcome, brother. Welcome. If you got any questions, ask away. And to the guys just joining, please click the like button. It helps YouTube circulate it to more of my existing subscribers. The algorithm does not push live streams out to all my subscribers, only a small handful, and then it relies on audience feedback to understand if it should promote it to more of my own audience. AA says, hi, Nemo. Hey, what's up, AA? What does AA stand for? Are those your initials? I'm curious. Or is it, it could be, let me see, amazing audiophile, maybe, huh? Edison Rodriguez says, hola, primo Nima. Hey, what's up, brother? What's up? Yeah, initials, cool. Yeah, I figured. So Yeah, come on, guys. You know how this thing works. Yeah, this is. I'll be honest. This is one of the first streams, like 15 minutes in, and I'm not like backed up on questions. There's usually a ton of questions in here. I could rant more about more stuff. Do you guys want to hear about the Unico Primo? I could talk about that. Sam Online says, "Hi Nemo from Bithlo. Where's is that? Are you saying is that a city in Florida? Bithlo? Yeah." AA says, "I like amazing audio flow rather." That's funny. Yeah, Bithlo is a place in Florida. I didn't. It sounds like a foreign country at first. Bithlo. I guess that's in Florida. Nice, nice. Are you one of the crazy Florida men I read about on the news? Oh, I think someone was crawling on me. Oh well. Guys, when it gets hot out here, at least where I live, we get spiders like crazy. Like crazy. Like I woke up the other day, I had 3 spider bites right here. 3 of them, like in a perfect triangle. I had the Bermuda Triangle of spider bites on my kind of, what would you even call that section right there? It's not quite my back, it's not quite my shoulder. You know what I mean? But yeah, right there. And then I was in the bathroom the other day and this giant pregnant spider. I almost had a heart attack, guys. I get scared of stuff like that, but I took it out. I had to defend my dwelling. Sometimes if they're small and not terribly ugly and they're just in a corner, I'll try to let them like stay there because spiders are smart. They generally try to stay out of our way. The Marklar says, "Do you like the Unico as much as Sean?" Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I know Sean really digs that thing. Yeah, I understand why he likes it. He's got every right to like it. He's one of the reasons I'm reviewing it. He's kind of hyped it up quite a bit over the years. And then even I think Randy, the Cheap Audio Man, reviewed it, and even he was like, "Man, this is great," you know. And he's a little harsher. The more stuff gets expensive, or I'd say the more stuff gets like starts to approach $1,000 or more, he starts to become real critical. But yeah, man, I'd say I like it about as much as Sean does. I'd easily say it's one of the among the best in that price category. If it's got the tonality you're looking for. If you're a detail first customer, the Unico Primo ain't for you. But if you value tonality, some richness, especially holographics, it has a ton of holographics. Oh my God. It is fantastic. It really sounds like, in a lot of ways, a full tube amp with just a ton of power behind it. It's great. Build quality is really nice too. Like that and the Choco Ime are just really 2 really good amps around that price. I like the Unico Primo more in some ways. Like it has subwoofer outputs or pre-outs, whatever you want to call them. I like the Ime more. It's a little bit more compact, a little bit more utilitarian in that regard, and a little bit cheaper, right? Both are really great. The Unico Primo is the more holographic. The Choco Ime is like the little bit is going to give you a lot more detail, but they're both really good, and I understand why Sean likes it so much. Yeah. Ben said, "Let's hear about the Unico." I guess you kind of just did. You kind of just did, right? You know anything about room modes? I think my speakers are too big. Edison, I think I saw you, Edelson, sorry. I think I saw you talking, were you in the Discord talking about that? Do you have the LS 60s, I think? Speaker size is, so like, I know a little bit about room modes. I'm by no means an expert. If you're in the Discord, user Dick McCoy is way more well-versed on the topic than I am. You might want to chat with him. But speaker size is not going to be a huge factor. Now, sure, if you've got a pair of speakers that are very light on bass, you may not notice your room modes as much, but they're still going to be there, right? They're still going to be there. What I can tell you, what I've noticed the most common room mode people experience, it's the guys who sit in the middle of the room, where like their living room is kind of long, or perhaps there's a kitchen behind them. And, kind of like the room behind me, right? Like imagine if my TV, right? Where my TV was on that wall and my couch was behind me, kind of where the tile meets the carpet. And then this way, you can't see it, but this way is my kitchen. I would have no bass at all in that seating position. There's generally, for the most part, most people, especially those with a single sub, there's hardly any bass in the middle of the room, right? But how this room is right now, where I'm sitting almost all the way against the back wall, I'm sitting in a different kind of like room mode. Where I'm sitting there is where the bass really peaks. So I've got a lot of strong, powerful bass there. And that's why if you look at guys with smaller rooms like Shane Lee, I think he moved, so he might be in a bigger room now. But for years, he was in a really small room, and his theater seating was pushed back all the way against that rear wall, because that's where he had really strong and powerful bass. And in the middle of the room, of course, he hardly had any. So that's a pretty common one. As far as fixing it, most people recommend dual subs, and things like that. And it certainly can help. The easiest way is just sitting further back if that's an option. Sometimes room correction can help like overpower it in some ways. It's some say that's not really a fix, but I mean, if it fixes and gives you more bass where you're sitting, another method is a subwoofer in the rear of the room, attempting to kind of cancel out the cancellations, if you will. I've seen that work. You've got a lot of options, but I wouldn't say it's because your speakers are too large. No. Sam Online says, I'm too old for that. What are you too old for? What did I say? I don't know. AA says, I got the Zoom Methods ordered after all the positive reviews. Very excited. What do you think, bro? What do you think? Have they delivered yet? I love that speaker. I'm keeping that for like a long-term review sample, a long-term reference point, which means if anyone wonders like what does like long-term review sample mean, it generally means it's mine so long as I use it. But when the day comes I'm over it and I don't want it in my home anymore, it's not technically my property, so I would not be allowed to sell it or give it away. I would have to reach out to Zoo and say, hey, it's been a year. Thank you so much for letting me hold on to this thing. I've enjoyed my time with it, but it's perhaps no longer getting use anymore, or I need the space. I'm ready to send it back. Thank you for being so gracious with me. There are some situations where long-term means like it's yours to keep. But not always, not always. Yeah, AA, I'd be curious to know what you think about those Zoom Methods. I really loved them. Do take some time setting them up properly. If you don't set them up properly and toe them in just right, it is a point source, and point sources do need a little bit of patience. Point source speakers can sound really wonky at first when they're not set up right. And then you got to just keep toning them in more and more until you get your imaging, and then you get some soundstage, and then you want to keep toning them in until your soundstage gets really big. Once your soundstage is really big and you've got good imaging, that's when you've got them towed in enough. Now you certainly can go all the way to the ears and get that brighter, more energetic presentation if you want, but you want to tow them in to the point that the soundstage is as big as possible. If you don't do that, you'll be disappointed. Or if you have like OCD and you're like, no, I like my speakers pointing straight out into the room, then point source speakers are not for you. You know what I mean? I don't mean you specifically, AA. I was just speaking in general. Edelson says rear delt. Oh yeah, I guess that is what you'd call it, huh? Yeah, there you go. JHM spiders I can handle. Cockroaches in Asia are oh my, don't get me started on roaches, bro. When I was young, my family was very poor, and we lived in this apartment. It was very, very cheap because it was roach infested, man. And man, I lived like that for like 5-6 years. I was like probably between the ages of like 13 and 17. I was like terrible, man. It was terrible. I'm like a young guy. I'm trying to like pick up on girls, but I couldn't like bring them back to my house. Like it was all bad, man. It was all bad. Like I would like have a hard time sleeping, and I'd be like worried they're crawling on me. It would like really fucking freak me out, man. Like if I saw just like one roach, just one in this home, which I've never seen, never. But if I saw just one, I would call the most expensive exterminator in the city. I don't care. If he came and he's like $5,000 to feed me, I'd be like, here you go. And here's a tip. I don't even care. I will pay any amount of money to not live like that again. It was miserable. I hope for you, JHM, the roaches you deal with are from the outside. The outside roaches aren't a big problem. It's the inside ones. The outside ones are the big ones, the black ones, or the really, really dark ones. The small brown ones that are from like inside infestations, miserable. Absolutely miserable. I'm with you. Yeah. Garrett says, have you ever heard the Hollow Audio Cyan 2 DAC? Many compared as a possible competition to the Live Micro and DDC combo I just got. I haven't, brother. I've never heard anything from Hollow Audio. I've never worked with them. I don't know who they are. I don't even know who I would reach out to for a review sample. I think the Cyan, the first one, people really liked a lot, but that was the one where it had like auto switching and people were like, it's a cool idea, but like they didn't really like it. I'm guessing the Cyan 2 maybe fixes that, or am I thinking of the Cyan 2? I don't know. I would be open to reviewing their stuff, but based on all the reviews I've seen, yeah, I imagine it's up there with Live Audio in terms of its quality. It's up there with, you know, the best of Denafrip stacks. There's no one like single brand that is like the R2R champion, right? Each one's going to do things like a little bit different. Like what Denafrips is doing right now is bringing a lot of value to the table, right? They've lowered the price of a lot of stuff. They've, you know, the Pontus now is the old Venus that used to be like 3,100, and you know now it's much cheaper. Live Audio is bringing us some really great compact components, right? Because like Denafrip stuff is big. So Live is going to give you some nice small compact form factor, extremely high build quality. And one area where I feel like Live Audio perhaps maybe unmatched, excuse me, in terms of the improvements it brings is airspace and separation. All Live Audio products bring a crazy amount of airspace and separation to the table, more so than most competitors I've heard. I would be curious to see what Hollow Audio brings to the table. I'm sure they perhaps have their own standout characteristic that makes them a great option as well. But I haven't heard them, but I'm sure they're up there with Denafrips and Live in terms of being fantastic options for the market. Ben says apples to oranges, Pathos versus Unico. Which Pathos? You know, I think the cheapest Pathos I reviewed was still quite a bit more expensive. So I'm guessing you mean that one. I think it was called the Classic One Mark III. Let me look it up real quick, see if that's the right one. Oh no, it's a lot more expensive. Bro, so the Unico Primo is $2,000. The Pathos Classic One Mark III is $3,500. So nearly double the price, right? But like we could chat about it. If someone asked me that like in the comments section, I'd be like, dude, the price disparity is too much. But I don't mind shooting the shit and going on these wild kind of comparisons during the live stream or in my Discord. So the Pathos Classic One Mark III is a tube hybrid, as is the Unico Primo, I believe. The sounds are actually very different, despite both being made in Italy. The sound is very different. So shockingly, the little Pathos Classic One Mark III, actually, you know, let me just bring up their specs. I don't want to misquote anything here. I think the Pathos gives us a little more power. Where are the specs? Here we go. Okay, maybe not. So the Pathos is 2 times 70 at 8 ohm, 2 times 130 at 4. Let's look up that Unico Primo. I think the Unico Primo might actually have a little bit more at 8 ohms. I don't know about 4 ohms though. Love it. I keep seeing the questions come in. I love that, guys. Keep them coming. Don't forget to like the video. Unico Primo, just a little bit more, 80 watts at 8 ohms. So 10 more watts a channel. So in terms of power delivery, we'll call it nears makes no difference. Both have great build quality. The Pathos is a very unique shape and size and aesthetic, and I love it for that. The Pathos is the more neutral by quite a bit, both air a little bit warm in the mid-range. The Unison Research piece is a little bit warmer. Both have good holographics. The holographics of the Pathos is more towards what you would expect out of solid state. The holographics out of the Unico Primo are much more close to what you would expect from full tube gear. I think if I blindfolded most people, I just like stab their eyes out. If I blindfolded most people and had them listen to the Unison Research, I wouldn't be surprised if most people thought it was a full tube amp. Both have tons of power reserve, both have good air and treble and detail and things like that. The Pathos is going to give us just a little bit more refinement and just a little bit more detail in those higher frequencies. Both have really fantastic bass control. So it's kind of simple. If you want the warmer, more holographic sound, the more tube-like sound, It's the Unison Research. If you want the sound that is just a little bit warm, a little bit more detailed, a little bit more towards neutrality, but not quite neutral, that's going to be the Pathos. Hey, it says, wow, I also have the live UDDC and UDAC combo. Yeah, that's going to be my go-to combo from now on, I think. I really like that combo myself. I keep wanting to go back to the full-size Harmony too, because like that's also really good. And it looks aesthetically better in my rack. We'll see what actually ends up happening. Edelson says, how do you describe a sound characteristic when the sound literally comes to your ear? Is that what forward presentation means? No, that's more like projection. Some people call that shouty. That's what like some of the old Klipsch speakers were known for. The sound projects like deep into the room, right? Like perhaps maybe you're thinking of like the vocal region, and it's like when the singer starts singing, it's like they're boom, they're like the minute the voice comes from their mouth, you feel it coming forward to you, right? That's like vocal projection. I've never really heard that with like all the other sounds. Mostly with voices, I hear that type of presentation, and I really enjoy it. Like I've heard it in like just all the sound, but that's usually when it's like a horn speaker. And I don't love that so much, but some people do really like that more like in your face, like pushed forward presentation. That's the older Klipsch stuff with the horns generally. So I'd call that, if we're talking about voices, I would call that like vocal projection. Vocals projecting, forward into the room quite a bit. If we're talking about the whole presentation like that, I'd call that a little bit shouty, because it feels like the speaker's shouting at you, hey, come over here, Edelson says, no, that wasn't me in the Discord, but I'm not active. I've Denton 85s. Oh, okay. Got it. AA says, me too. That dethroned the Denfrips Pontus 12th for me. Nice. That's a hell of a compliment. The Pontus 12th was actually, I don't know if I reviewed the 12th. I reviewed the Pontus 2. That was still a really good DAC. AA says his methods are a few weeks away, so he hasn't gotten them yet. Ordered with a custom finish. Nice. Yeah, that's one thing that's cool about Zoo. They gave you so many finish options. Originally with the method, they were all paint-only finishes, and now they're offering some beautiful wood veneer finishes, which got me really jealous, man. I really wish I had one of those beautiful wood finishes, but it's okay. I like the orange. The orange is actually very cool. Time for one of these bad boys. Those of you that always tune in the Discord, you already know this is the drink of most audiophiles with good taste. It's a very delicious drink. Today we have the Guava Sao Paulo. So yeah, Sao Paulo. I don't know if that's how you say it or not. LaCroix always tries to be very fancy with their names. CC, what's up? CC says, hi, Nemo. You usually recommend blending subwoofers to main speakers at a rather low frequency. Yes, I do. And CC, thank you for noticing that. I love when people notice a trend in what I say. That tells me you're not just watching my content, you're remembering what I'm saying, you're seeing the consistency, and that is the correct way to follow someone. It's the correct way to follow someone if you're going to make decisions based on what they say. You should never watch just one video of someone and make a decision from them, because you don't know what kind of person they are. You don't know what their references are. You don't know their belief system in the hobby and things like that. It is very important to understand what kind of person the reviewer you're watching is, what they're into, what they believe in, and things like that. This is a great question, Cece. So you're saying why? I haven't tried it yet, but I plan to. High pass my main speakers at around 150 and let the sub fill in. That's a really high pass. So let me answer your question in general, and then I'll get to kind of what you're saying specifically, Cece. So I like a mid-range that is a little bit fuller. So when you high pass your speakers or and things like that, excuse me, the downside of drinking sparkling drinks, you're going to get some belching. So Sorry, let's not talk about high pass. Let's just talk about crossing over. So what I found is if you have a single subwoofer, the higher you blend up your subwoofer, like again, excuse me, let's say you do 80 hertz, the more it's going to localize. And in my opinion, very few subwoofers, 80 hertz region sounds very good. Most subwoofers above 50 hertz don't sound all that great. Some can do well up to about 60 or even 65 hertz, but most subwoofers, you get them over 50 to 60 hertz, they don't sound all that great. That's like mid bass in my opinion. Above like 50 to like 150 hertz is mid bass to me. I'm not saying it actually is, just to me it is. Most subwoofers just don't do that region as well as your speakers do. So if you have speakers that have, good bass down to say 50 hertz or so, try crossing over your sub at say 40, 45 or 50. You're taking the strain off. You're forcing this, when you blend up really high, you're trying to get the subwoofer to do something it's not really there for. In my opinion, most subwoofers should live below 50 hertz. They really should. And 50 hertz and above is the job of the speaker. The subwoofer will localize less. It'll sound cleaner, clearer. In my opinion, it's just a better experience. Now, some guys love mid bass. They want a lot of it. So they want their subwoofer to produce their mid bass. Those are guys that are blending at 80 hertz, 100 hertz, and things like that. To me, that sounds awful. To me, the subwoofer is localizing a ton unless you've got a pair. And even with a pair, it's fairly obvious to me those mid-bass frequencies are coming from the floor and not from the middle of my room where my speakers are. But if you like a lot of mid-bass, by all means, have your subwoofer overlap your speakers a ton, into the high mid-bass band. But I don't think that sounds the best. Now, in terms of high pass, I'm not a big fan of high pass myself. But I will admit it is probably the quickest and easiest way for most people to set up a subwoofer, especially if they're not really, really good at setting up subwoofers. I would try to keep the high pass very low, following my trend of, a lower crossover point is better. If you take too much bass out of your speakers and say high pass at 80, 90, 100 hertz, or even higher, you are robbing yourself of mid-range fullness. Now, if you appreciate the more detailed mid-range that comes with a thinner mid-range, by all means do that, but that is what you're going to be doing. In the past, many, many years ago, people would do this because they would run inexpensive speakers that couldn't play very loud, so they'd pull the bass out of the speakers. That would allow the speakers to play much louder. But these days, even very inexpensive speakers can get respectably loud, so I don't think that's a problem for most people. So my advice, CC, is if you're going to be using, high pass and low pass filters, that's fine. Even though I don't love it for myself, I think it's still a great option for most people because I've set up like hundreds of subwoofers myself, so I'd rather do it myself. But for most guys that are not trying to set up a subwoofer forever and over a period of a few weeks to get it dialed in, because that's what it takes when you don't have like hundreds and hundreds of data points. High pass, low pass, try it at around 40 hertz, try it at around 45 hertz, try it at 50 hertz, try it at, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Try all of them and do what you like. Don't do a low crossover just because I like it. You may like a thinner sound than me in the mid-range. You may like a more mid-bassy presentation down low than I do. We may have different taste, but try it my way if you're curious about what I like, I suppose. Again, if you are using one sub, lower is better as well because it'll localize less. But 150 hertz, I think, is too high. I think that's way too high. It's nearly double the old Dolby standard of 80. And remember, guys, that 80 hertz crossover for theater, that came from Dolby many, many years ago when they were selling little satellite speakers to, be your front, center, left, right, and rear, and expecting you to use a big subwoofer. That comes from the sub-sat era. Most people are not using satellite speakers anymore, So yeah, that's my answer. Aaron's Audio Corner, what's up, dog? Saw you're streaming live and just wanted to say, hey man, I appreciate it. Guys, Aaron's got a great channel. If you like measurements and don't like the, shall we say, arrogance that tends to come with them, Aaron does a great job. It's one of the reasons he's you guys know I don't love the measurements guys that are like so fanatical about it, but I really do enjoy Aaron's content because he doesn't get like overly emotional about it. He just tells you what this is what happened. This is what it is. Real simple. He doesn't get all panties in a bunch type shit or like try to have like an air of superiority about it at all. At all. And I love that about Aaron. Great content. What else we got? GC Soundscape. My Bruno Cotera 6L6 should ship in a couple days. My Fritz Carbon 7 SE Mark II speakers should sound great with that amp. Both pieces, thanks to your reviews. That is going to be a fantastic system. Yeah, let me sip some water. I'm going to speak on that. That's going to be some synergy. Oh my goodness. One more sip. Hold on. By the way, guys, just so you know, there's sparkling water in this too. Half and half mixed with some ice. Give it a try if you're a stainless steel cup guy. I got half a full can of Waterloo strawberry in here, some ice, and the rest is filled with water. Fantastic. So GC Soundscape. You've picked two products that, so the Fritz Carbon 7 SE, really, really easy to drive. And not just because of its sensitivity, its impedance graph is great, very flat. It presents an effortless load on the amplifier. The Bruno Cotera has a good amount of headroom actually for a tube amp with I think 20 or 25 watts on paper, right? But you pair that, so it's already got good headroom. It's going to already have good dynamics. You pair it with an easy load like the Fritz Carbon, your dynamics are going to be beautiful, okay? The Fritz Carbon has great airspace and separation, as does the Bruno Cotera. So you're going to be getting just a really good spacious sound that is going to be big, wide, with great separation, great detail and detail retrieval. You should have some pretty darn good holographics and a very, very deep sound stage with good, confident, controlled bass. That's not overdone. The Fritz Carbon 7 is not a bass monster, but it does have a fuller sound. It does bring some good bass to the table. It is a little bit bigger than medium, I would say, in terms of its physical size, and it brings a good full sound to the table. I think you're really going to like it. Great synergy. Edelson says, I don't know if you're religious, but God bless, man. You seem to be doing okay for yourself now, i.e. no more roaches. I'm not religious, Edelson, but I do believe in God. I didn't for a long time. I didn't believe in God until about 13 years ago. I just tried it, and it worked out pretty well, I'd say. I always tell people, believe what you believe. If your life is better being atheist, do that. If your life is great going to church every Sunday, do that. If your life is better, facing Mecca 6 times a day, do that. Whatever makes you feel peace in your heart. I got no problem someone telling me God bless you, and God bless you as well, Edelson. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm definitely doing better than the old roach infested apartment my parents had me in. Yeah, thank God for that. Sam Online says, yeah, I'm getting a Pontus 15th. Yeah, it's if the physical size is not a problem, and it's not the biggest stack, it's not. It's just, it is much bigger than something like a Harmony or like a Aries. Yeah, the Pontus 15th, I haven't heard it, but I did review the old Venus 2, and I've been told the Pontus is the Venus internals in the Pontus case now. You're getting a lot for your money because the Harmony, which I love, competed pretty close to the old Venus 2 I reviewed. The Harmony did some things a little better. The Venus 2 did some things a little bit better. I'll be honest, at this point, I can't remember what they were. You'd probably have to watch my Harmony review to see what those were. But the Venus was a great DAC, the old Venus 2 I reviewed. And that's I think what you're getting in the new Pontus 15th. JHM says Hollow's characteristics seems to be holographic. Oh, that would make sense. Plus sounding like the real thing. Based on reviews I've seen, I could see that. That makes a lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense based on the name of the company. And that's great because that's different than Denafrips. That's different than Live. Again, Live is airspace separation, just fantastic. Denafrips is bringing us a lot of value. You know what I mean? And then if Hollow Audio is bringing us like really amazing holographics to the table, there's something there for everyone. What a great time to be an audiophile, huh? Edelson says, do you think bass traps and room treatment make a worthy difference, or is it more of a subtle upgrade change? Brother, I just did a whole video about that. Well, that was all of last week's video. So yeah, look, I think treating the first reflection points are going to be the most drastic upgrade for most people. Bass traps, whether it's a subtle upgrade or a drastic upgrade, is going to depend on the type of bass issues you have in your room. And keep in mind, bass traps don't only deal with bass. There's still absorption. They're still going to impact the mid-range and those high frequencies and darken the background of your room quite a bit. They are going to impact the imaging. They should improve the imaging, believe it or not, especially if you have them on the main wall. But in my room, I wouldn't say it was a subtle difference, nor was it a, wow, oh my God, but it was more somewhere in the middle. In my room, first reflection points were the like, wow, this is like crazy. But first reflection was the first thing I treated. So I went from having no room treatment to having some. So maybe if I did bass traps first, I would feel it was more drastic. I'm not sure. If you can accommodate them, give them a whirl. They're not too expensive. And depending where you live, sometimes you could find a ton of them on Facebook Marketplace for pennies on the dollar, guys. Lots and lots of people set up a home studio. It doesn't work out and they sell everything for pennies on the dollar. Because these things are big. They take up a lot of space. So if you decide you don't want them anymore, you want them out of your house. Don't be afraid to check the used market, guys. Especially, they're tough to ship. So if they're local, they'll sell them for cheap. Neil Caffrey says, hey, Nemo. What's up, Neil? What's up? Good to see you in here. I've seen you in other live streams before, too. I appreciate the consistency. Neil says, what is your experience with hi-fi cables? Currently, I am using pretty basic in acoustics star speaker cables, 2.5 millimeters thick. I upgraded to Focal Kenta #1 speakers. Nice, nice. That is a serious speaker, not inexpensive either. One second. So cables make a difference. I don't care what anyone says. Is that difference always going to be big or drastic? No, not necessarily. It kind of depends on, everything else that's going on. I'm of the belief that just about anything can make a difference. Wearing a t-shirt versus wearing a hoodie, sitting down with a blanket or without a blanket, the lights being dim or the lights being bright. I think all these things unrelated to your system even can make a difference. So of course I do think cables can make a difference. Would I suggest someone go out and buy a $5,000 or $10,000 cable? No, unless that's something you want to do. I wouldn't disparage the guy either who buys $5,000 or $10,000 cables. The cables I use are about $400 or maybe $500. And then I needed a backup pair, so I got a set of Zoo's most inexpensive cable. And that's pretty good value for the money. That Zoo cable really, really surprised me. I think I've got a 10-foot pair, banana on each end, and I want to say they're like $138 for the pair. They're priced individually, and that cable is really good because I've tried other like $100 cables, and they never like really impressed me. They were like the same as just using like zip cord. But Zoo's like $138 cable, I A-B'd it to my $500 cable, and they were pretty similar. I couldn't really tell a difference there. But between the Zoo cable and like about my Zoo cable or my $500 cable, if I use one of my like other like $99 cables that I just got off of eBay, yeah, it's a big difference. I lose a lot of soundstage. It's like night and day. Like it's one of those things, like anyone who came over, if I showed them, they'd be like, well, no, that's a big difference. That it is not a small difference. And that could mean that the cheap $99 cable I have is just really bad, or maybe it means that the Zoo cable and the other cable I have are just really, really good. I couldn't tell you, you know what I mean? Some cables do suck though. That's a real thing. I've had subwoofer cables that picked up noise from like cell phones. I had a subwoofer cable once that interfered with like Bluetooth playback because a long time ago when I was just like cleaning my home, I would just use Bluetooth to play music and like it kept cutting out. And the only thing I had changed recently was this subwoofer cable. I ripped it out of my system, put in one that was just like a little bit more expensive. I think this was like a Foz Power, like $6 cable off Amazon. And I think I replaced it with like an Amazon Basics one or something. And the problem went away. Never happened again. So crappy cables are a real thing. Yeah, and there's a lot of companies that make cables, but I would say I think Zoo makes a good cable. They got just two options really. They don't have like a million options, and there's more. There's like Cardis. There's stuff can get really expensive, but experiment if you want to. I'd say. Okay, so Neil, you had a follow-up question. So you're saying cables in general. I'll share this quick story with you guys too, and then we'll move away on the cable topic. And guys, for those of you that don't like cables, it's okay. Everyone, please use whatever cable you like. If that means whatever the products came with, use those. You should do this hobby the way that makes you happy, right? I like bling. I like audio jewelry. So I bought cables. I like the way they look. So a long time ago, I was using all just regular cheap power cables, like $6 ones from Amazon, whatever came with the amps and stuff like that. And then I wanted like fancy power cables because you could see them on the floor in my system. And I see them because I'm behind my rack a lot too. So I bought these power cables from Maze Audio. They're reference 4 cable. They were back then, I think, just under $200 a piece, like $189 a piece. I bought 5 of them. So yeah, I spent about $1,000 on just 5 power cables. And you want to know how just like sweaty I am? One of those cables was for like my subwoofer. Just doesn't even need it. Anyways, long story short, they arrived. I plugged them all in, and yeah, I did notice a difference. I didn't buy them for a sonic upgrade. I bought them for audio jewelry. I bought them just so they'd look cool. That's it. I was not even expecting a sonic upgrade, but I did notice a darker background, a little bit more effortless treble. It was undeniable. Yeah. I support people trying to experiment with cables. I think it's totally okay to do that. All right, where did I leave off? Professor 5180, where does JTR RS1 and Perlison R18S fall on the SPL SQ scale as compared with the Rhythmic F18? I don't know. JTR does not send out review samples. I'm pretty sure they've like said that publicly. They just don't need it. They sell everything they make. They're like a boutique company. They make everything in-house, and their sales are as high as their throughput. They don't need a review. I also don't really review subwoofers over 100 pounds too often. It's not worth it. It's a huge pain in the butt. You guys got to remember, I don't get paid for this. A lot of these big, heavy subwoofers come on a pallet. I cannot accommodate a pallet. I don't want to. I can. I don't want to deal with it. Why should I? It is a big headache. So I never heard the RS1. I'm sure it's extremely capable in terms of sheer raw output. It's got a ton of power. It should have tremendously more output than an F18. It's also a lot more expensive. I believe a single RS1 is not too far off in price to like a pair of F18s, right? Perlison, same thing. Those big Perlison subs, they ship on a pallet. I could not accommodate a pallet. And again, it has a tremendous power. It probably is louder than an F18. With those two factoids known, they are most likely not pure SQ subwoofers. Pure SQ subwoofers are rarely the loudest in the category. They can't be, because the drivers they use have lightweight moving mass, lightweight relatively speaking. They don't beef up the voice coil unnecessarily to serve as a heat sink. That's another thing that increases mass a lot of people don't know about. I believe those are 2 high DSP use subs. Generally, subs that use a lot of DSP are also generally not pure SQ subwoofers. Pure SQ subwoofers or subwoofers with extremely high SQ generally don't use a digital DSP. JL Audio doesn't use a digital DSP. And while I call them SPL subwoofers, I refer to them as the king of SPL subwoofers with some of the best sound quality for the category. Rel doesn't use a DSP. That's a pure SQ subwoofer. Rhythmic doesn't use DSP. That's a pure SQ subwoofer. Those are the only three brands that I've ever talked about in terms of like super high SQ. Everyone that uses a DSP, if you pay attention to my review, I never call them world class like the same way I do with Rel or Rhythmic. I never say it's the best, some of the best note to note distinction I've ever heard. I never say the handling of delicate passages are phenomenal. I don't use those same descriptors that I use when I review Rel and Rhythmic. And I wish reviewing those big, large subs was easier. I would do more of it, but I just can't. Now, does that mean that this JTR or this Perlison is terrible because they're probably not pure SQ subwoofers? No. No. They're probably really good. They're probably really, really, really good. And the truth is, when you're buying this big, giant subwoofer, you know, handling of delicate passages are generally not your number one priority. You're generally looking for a ton of headroom. You're generally looking for your theater to sound not just like a real theater, better than a real theater, right? You're hunting those single digit, you know, hertz, you know, extensions. You know, you want that 9 hertz, 10 hertz. You want the crazy stuff. And those big and brutally powerful subwoofers will bring that to the table, you know? And I'm sure they could do music too. You know, are they going to do it as well as a Rhythmic F18? I wouldn't imagine they would, but we're just bench racing here. I haven't really heard those things. But they're bringing a lot of thunder to the table. I'm sure those are two really good high quality subwoofers, but I wouldn't guess that they would be pure SQ designs. It doesn't seem that they are. Ben Gleason is asking, would the Pathos Remix and Spendor Classic 31 be a good combo? Like yes and no. Let me look up something on that Spendor Classic 31. I could have sworn the Classic 31 was 4,500. Now it's 5,000. Maybe it's always been 5,000. So the Spendor Classic 31 isn't particularly hard to drive, nor is it particularly easy to drive. It sits at 88 dB. So that's just, I'd call that average. If you want like neck breaking volume, the Pathos Impul Remix is a Class A amp. It is going to be limited on power. That's not to say it can't get loud. It certainly can get loud depending on what you mix it with. And its Class A watts do feel like double what they actually are. But if you're in a really big room, you might want something that's more like 90 dB and up. Now, in terms of like a tonal match, it depends. That Pathos Impul Remix is more towards neutrality. The Spendor Classic 31 is tremendously warm and rich. So if that's the right combination that you want, then you're going to love it. But if you want even warmer than the Spendor Classic 31, and then I would say you're crazy because that'd be really warm, then you'd want a warmer amp. Conversely, you might want something you may feel the Spendor Classic 31 is just a little too warm, and you may want an amp that's a little bit more analytical than the Pathos Impul Remix. It's hard to say. Would I enjoy the combination? Absolutely. Yeah, I totally would. But I don't mind giving up detail for tonal richness and a relaxed sound. I don't mind that at all. Let me just read this real quick and take a toot, guys. Slippin' Dixon. Slippin' Dixon says, what do you recommend for LFE crossover? So guys, let's remember first and foremost, LFE is generally going to impact movies only. At least that's what it should do if your AVR was made right. His Denon has 120 hertz crossover, which everyone recommends, but he finds that if he has it at 250 with the internal on the sub at internal 90 hertz on the sub, yeah, and 60 on the speakers, it sounds pretty good. I could see that. What's most likely happening is, so there's a slope. when you set your den into a 120 hertz crossover, it's not a hard cut, right? There's a slope to it. It's a roll off. So when you're setting it to 250, you're almost setting it to full range. You're kind of just almost in a way disabling it and letting your internal sub at 90 hertz be the real crossover. If you have the option to disable the crossover on the sub and only use your high pass at 60, try that. It sounds like you like a little bit of overlap. That's totally okay. Some of these AVRs don't really do exactly what they say they're doing on the screen, which can be frustrating. Yeah, I would say try, if you like it like that, try just disabling the low pass only if that's an option. If not, keep running it the way you're running it. Nothing wrong with that. Like I always like to say, forget about what is correct. Forget about what is the way you are supposed to do something. This is a hobby, and taste is a huge factor. Who cares how you're supposed to barbecue ribs or a burger? You should barbecue ribs or a burger, or you should make spaghetti based on how you are going to like it, right? And it's the same with audio. It is the same with audio, guys. JHM says Rel tends to advocate for crossover low, turn up, gain more. Yeah, I found it works for me. I like a little bit of texture and kick for bass drums. Reminds me of live metal. Yeah, JHM, exactly. Exactly. A lot of people get Rels and they're like, they don't extend low, but they got their crossover turned up all the way. As a result, they have to have their gain turned down a lot. A lot of people don't know there is a relationship between your crossover and your gain. As you turn up the crossover, your subwoofer gets louder just overall. So there is a relationship there. I don't know why, but that's a thing. So you want to keep your crossover relatively low usually, even if your subwoofer has fantastic mid bass like a Rel. The Marklar says, Nemo, in the 10K price category, do you have 2 to 3 favorite integrated amplifiers? And if so, how do they stack up against separate stack like the live stack? Marklar, I haven't reviewed a lot of 10K amps. I don't think I've reviewed any. I don't really have an opinion there. Sean from Zero Fidelity is probably a better question to ask that question too. He's reviewed a lot of amps, a lot more integrated amps than I have in that price range. Moog says, Nemo, thanks for the love on the sub recommendation. Went with dual F18s for HT and going to try Rel 1003 Mark II for the home office. Excellent choices. Excellent choices. I don't know anyone that got a pair of rhythmic F18s and wasn't nothing but happy. That is fantastic. And the Rel 1003 Mark II continues to be my small subwoofer reference. It is so good for its physical size and current price point. It is so good. Like, it's so good. There's been 12-inch subs that cost more money that I've sent back without a review because the 1003 Mark II is better and cheaper. No, I'm not going to mention the brands. I don't like to slander brands. If something is not good, I'd rather send it back. If I make a negative review, guys, they get so many thumbs down. They get so many. People don't want the truth. It's unfortunate. I've made negative reviews in the past or been critical when I didn't like something. I get tons of thumbs down. It's not worth it to me. It's not worth it to the channel. I'd rather just send it back without a review. Mateus, hi Nemo. Have you ever heard open baffle direct servo sub from GR Research? I don't like GR Research, bro. I don't like them, Mateus. Danny from GR Research made a whole video with New Record Day, just talking about how all us other reviewers are idiots. So I would not like him because of that, obviously. He has a very poor opinion of most of us. He thinks that we're amateurs. He thinks that only he is qualified to review gear and that no one else is qualified to review gear. So I'm like anyone else. I don't like people that don't like me. You know what I mean? And if someone wants to criticize me or other reviewers that I respect, that person can suck it. I think Danny is not someone I'd be interested in talking to. I don't think he's someone whose products I would be interested in hearing. And additionally, he would never send me a review sample because he has very publicly said he does not believe other reviewers are qualified to review his product, because he thinks his product is so amazing that my little brain perhaps is not intelligent enough. I don't have enough experience perhaps to properly assess it. That is genuinely what Danny believes. He has said that publicly many times, right? So yeah, man, that's that. Sorry, brother. He did it, not me. You know what I mean? If he'd reached out to me and had not made a video like that, I'd be open to talking to the guy, but I just don't trust him. He reminds me of people that are fairly manipulative and hide behind a soft voice and a smile. That's a certain personality type I've run into many times in my life, and I tend to not like people like that. I just, in my opinion, I think they might be more manipulative than they seem, and a lot of the things they say are oddly backhanded. Those people tend to not be very candid and talk in odd circles, and they do tend to amass a cult-like following, but everyone is welcome to follow and trust whoever they wish to follow and trust. Danny is not someone I follow nor trust. Leave it at that. Edelson says, my bad, Primo. Like you said, not all subscribers getting these streams and videos in their feeds, etc. I'll check out the video. All good, bro. All good. Yeah. That's it's a common thing. YouTube will not show you all of my content just because you subscribe, unfortunately. Especially if you skip videos sometimes. If you only watch the videos you're interested in, YouTube will think it means you don't like my content, and it will start showing it to you less. It is what it is. It's just how the algorithm works. If you want my content to always be in your feed, the only way to do that is to either hit the notification bell so you always get an email when I post, or you literally just have to watch every single one of my videos the whole way through. The whole way through. You can't skip it. You can't like skip around. You have to watch the whole video. So, I get it. AA says, I currently have a pair of Zoo Audio Undertone 3 subwoofers, the best subs I have ever heard, and I have heard some big hitters from Rel, etc. I've seen the subwoofers on their page, and I am curious about them. I might reach out and see if we can maybe get a review going. Yeah, AA says the entry-level cables are called Option Series. You are correct. That's what I have. Danny says, yo, Nemoski. What's up, brother? Oh, it's your sub lover on the Discord? Nice. Sam Online says, I use Blue Jeans 10-gauge speaker wires and locking banana plugs. I had a pair of those for a while. They're good cables. I ended up giving them to a friend. I didn't like the white utilitarian look. AA says BJC makes a good cable. Yeah, it's a very fair cable for the price you're paying. Absolutely. Danny Marr says, I hope you can help. It depends. If you're asking for marital advice, I'll give it, but I'm single. I have LS52 wireless. Don't like that I can put on covers, that I can't put on covers. I want to sell them to buy Arundel 1961 bookshelves. Will the 1961 bookshelf disappear too? Yeah, I've never heard the wireless 2. I've only heard the LS50 Meta, bro. The Arundel 1961 bookshelf is a similar sound to the LS50 Meta. That's kind of all I can tell you. They're small speakers. They do disappear into the room if that's your only concern. They don't have much bass at all, though. Just know that. It's a small sealed speaker, mostly intended to be a satellite speaker in the rear of a theater. But they can do music just fine, and they sound very big, very effortless, and they do disappear in the room. You're just going to need a subwoofer, JHM says, yeah, cables absolutely make a difference. I went from cable direct cables to QED XT25, and it felt like I gained so much clarity. Yeah. And JHM, sorry, by the way, guys, that subwoofer cable that I thought was giving me a lot of problems back in the day, it was a cable direct cable. I remember, now that you said it, I remember it was made by Cable Direct, and I swapped it out for Amazon Basics, and even that was like an upgrade. Garrett says Mogami 3104 is a huge difference. Yeah. Uh, Danny is saying Perlison, he thinks Perlison is more like Rel, very lightweight sound, nothing like JL or SVS. Well, JL is nothing like SVS. So I'm surprised you would put those two in the same category. I mean, I guess in terms of tonal weight, yeah, JL and SVS are both heavy-handed. That is fair, I suppose. Danny says he bought the Perlison R10S. Blends really well, looks like he's saying. And the 1723 1S was a heavier tone. Wow. Okay. So I'm starting to believe you a little bit because it sounds like you know what you're talking about. I'm probably going to check out a Perlison sub at some point. So the 1723 1S isn't that heavy tonally. It's not. JL and SVS are heavier, but if you're saying the Perlison is lighter tonally, less heavy-handed than the 1723 1S, it might be an SQ sub. It might be. Edelson says, I have Van Dam cables, 4mm. I feel like I don't need to think about cables for a while or maybe ever. Yeah, and that's another great thing buying cables can do. It just stops the obsession. That's another reason I spent money on expensive RCA cables. They're not too expensive. They're about $100 each. I use the Analysis Plus oval ones. And what it did for me, the biggest upgrade it did for me is it made me stop obsessing about it, stop thinking about it, stop second guessing my system. It gave me more peace and allowed me to get back to enjoying the music. And for that alone, those RCA cables were worth it. Edelson's asking if I've ever done any work with engineering or audio engineering, or is it straight years of being a hobbyist and stuff and industry work? I've never done any industry work. I've never worked in the industry. I've never done any work with engineering or audio engineering. No. The closest I've come to that is a few times companies have sent me a prototype to ask my opinion on it. Usually a subwoofer, because I'm kind of like considered the subwoofer guy. Generally, they want to know how it stacks up to competitors, what my impressions would be if that was the final version, areas there where I think it needs to be improved and things like that. I've done that for a few companies, and I've done that for free. And I wouldn't mind doing more of that. That's kind of always a little fun. But no, I'm not an industry professional by any means. I don't have any professional like engineering experience, and I'm not afraid to admit where my knowledge is lacking, you know. Danny says JHM, yeah, Rel does advise that you cross over lower because when you cross over too high, the sub won't blend well. When I had the original Rel Stentor, not the 2 or 3, it blended amazing when crossover was very low. Yeah, most subwoofers don't blend very low when you crank up the crossover. They don't. They just tend to localize. They'll sound very mid-bassy, and again, I guess if you like that, that's okay. Set up your subwoofer to personal taste. Unless you've got a recording studio where you need accuracy, what does accuracy matter? You know what I mean? But my system's not accurate, guys. I've got a ton more low-end extension than is actually accurate. That's just how I like it, you know? Danny's like, yeah, for sure it's taste. 100% agree. Yeah. People forget that in this hobby, how important personal taste is. What does it matter if a $20,000 speaker is better than what you own? If you like an analytical sound and the $20,000 speaker is better than what you have, but it's a warm sound, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You got to get the sound you like. Moog says he saw a video of some guy where he plumbed a sub to his center channel and said it was a game changer. Has this ever crossed your mind? No, Moogs, I don't do theater, but what you're talking is about, I think you're referring to Shane Lee. He connected, I think, a Rel T7X or T9X to his center channel. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Some of the best home theaters I've ever experienced, like some of my friends have home theaters that are like 100K plus, have massive center speakers, like huge center channel speakers that are like $5,000. And those massive center channel speakers have some bass and kick to them. And you'd be surprised how much bass power comes through the center channel. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with augmenting your center channel with something like a Rel T7X or T9X. It's definitely going to make things like tank fire way more impactful. You could definitely do that. Neil says, can't remember, but are you using something from Isoacoustics? There's so much positive feedback that I thought I need to try something, probably Gaia stuff. No, that's a tweak. I don't really mess with tweaks. Also, Isoacoustics is distributed by the same company who distributes Focal in the US. And I'm kind of salty with them, to be honest. I reviewed the Focal Cora 806. I bought it with my own money to review it. I reviewed the Focal Aria 906. I bought it with my own money to review it. I reviewed the Focal Canta #1. I bought it with my own money to review it. And when I asked Focal for a review sample, there was never one available. I pulled money out of my pocket 3 times to review their product 3 times. And one time I asked for a review sample, is not available. I didn't take it personally. A couple months later, I asked again. Again, there was not one available. And my exchange with their North American marketing rep, I think, is some guy, not the girl. There's a girl and there's a guy. The girl wasn't the best at getting back to me, but when she did, she was polite. The guy, he was a straight up asshole. He was an asshole, straight up. I'll never want to work with Focal directly or any of the brands they represent ever, honestly. Unless that dude apologizes to me, man. I was just trying to ask him what color my Cantas were, and he couldn't tell me. And he kept giving me the wrong information. And I'll tell him, like, hey, bro, like, this is the color you're saying I have. This is the speaker I have. These two are not the same. Like, what do I have? And he wouldn't tell me. Like, as a customer who bought them with my own money, you know, very unprofessional. The guy was not informed of his own product. And even it reached the point, Andrew Robinson, when he reviewed his Focal Canta #1, he even mentioned that in his video. He had the same problem, that the color they were telling him his speaker was not correct. And he didn't even know what the color was called. So, you know, I'm sure he got treated with a little bit more courtesy than I did. I hope he did. But they treated me like I was annoying them. Like, fuck you guys. I don't know who these people think they are. Oh, because you work at some fancy company? Like, well, so what? So what? That's like you go to like a Louis Vuitton store to buy something and the person behind the cash register gives you attitude. Like, bitch, you don't own Louis Vuitton. Like that marketing guy, he doesn't own Focal. Like, what gives him the right to have such a big ego and treat me like that? Fuck those people. Straight up. I haven't bumped into them a couple times at trade shows. And one of them was like, oh, do you have a card? And I'm like, nah, it's okay. And I just walked away. Rockroll says, so just checking in, brother. What's up, Rockroll? John Stump, I enjoyed your take on the recent video of your opinion of the resistor ladder DACs. Thank you, John. Thank you. That was a fun video to make. And I hope everyone got what I was saying about. You know, I know the title was like Denafrips versus Live Audio, but both brands make good stuff, you know. I just decided to put that little catchy title, see if it would get me some more views maybe, you know. Adam Carver, Nemo, for a small HT sub, would you go RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II or REL HT 1205 Mark II? I currently have a Speedwoofer 10E. Adam, why wouldn't you just add a second Speedwoofer 10E? I think that would be fantastic. If you can't, because you cannot accommodate a second sub, drop another comment below and I'll answer. But I think your best upgrade path is a second 10E. I lost my place. Oh, it's Yama. What's up, Yama? Guys, Yama is like one of my most OG subscribers. Like back from the era when I had like 900 subscribers, Yama was in the chat. Always commenting on my videos. I appreciate you, brother. Hey, Nemo. Hey, everyone. Just dropping in to say a quick hello. I appreciate you, Yama. Thank you. Danny says tonal weight. Yes, SVS and JL. Yeah, Danny, you're right. SVS and JL, in terms of tonal weight, nearly identical. Both very heavy-handed, very forceful, very in your face. JL, though, much better, significantly better note-to-note distinction, significantly better start-stop behavior, significantly better transient response. JL, the only thing that stops JL from me calling it an SQ sub is its in-your-face presentation and it crushes just a little bit of detail, nowhere near as much as every other subwoofer. Its handling of delicate its handling of delicate passages are like 90% like on par with Rhythmic. JL is very, very good, but very heavy-handed. Danny, I could tell you're one of those people that when you text your friends, you send like 7 texts to say one thing, because that's what you're doing in the chat. He says he had a 1723 1S and now the R10S. And yes, the 1723S is lightweight sounding from a 1 out of 10. It's a 3, but the R10 is a 2. Wow. Wow. You're really making me want to check out Perlison. He says SVS is a 10 out of 10. I agree. Yeah, Danny, your assessment in terms of like heavy-handedness are spot on. We are 100% on the same page. So when you watch my videos, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about that kind of stuff. I'm guessing you either have a really good ear for it, or maybe you have a background in car audio. Usually the car audio guys are very sensitive to heavy-handed bass, because that's what a lot of car audio is. Ancient Aliens 815 says, I like to run bookshelf speakers with a 10 dB shelf at 75 hertz. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't know what that means. Ancient Aliens, what is a 10 dB shelf at 70? What does that mean? I've seen a shelf option setups in the app of like Bucart's speaker, their powered speaker and their subwoofer. I didn't know what it was, honestly. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Danny says JL's an 8 or 9, more refined and not a one-note wonder. 100% agree. Fletcher Munson, what's up, brother? What's up? Used to have a cable company in the 80s and 90s. They matter. I use them for tone controls. Yeah, that's okay. Thomason Stereo does that too. I can change compatibility with my speakers with cables, audience cable, OFC copper is my heartthrob. Yeah. Cables make a difference, guys. They do. Now, does that justify that there are esoteric cables that cost hundreds of $1,000s? Probably not. And I think that's where some of us get our panties in a bunch. When we see a cable that is the price of a car, it does leave you scratching your head. Or a cable that costs more than an amplifier, it does seem bizarre. You know, I do agree with that, guys. But don't ignore cables just because of that. You know, unless you don't care. If you don't care, then don't buy them. Yama says, just out of curiosity, are you subscribed to the DIY Perks YouTube channel? He did a video on Toslink wireless audio. I'd love to hear your opinion on his newest video on wireless power is nuts too. No, I'm not a big DIY guy, bro. Sorry. Fletcher Munson says, Focal, rude. I'm shocked. I read that with sarcasm because I think that's how you wrote it. I showed my cables with them in a room and they tried to get me tossed out of the room I paid for. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Fletcher was being sarcastic. Yeah, bro. They really think they're somebody. You know, which is, to me, that's it's really crazy, you know, to like have this like attitude of like I'm better. Like even Rel doesn't have that attitude, and their subwoofer is better than a lot of subwoofers. JL Audio doesn't have that attitude. Rhythmic doesn't have that attitude. Like very few brands have that attitude of like we're better or like we're the best. Like this is a hobby. Like what do you mean? This is a hobby that personal taste is 90% of the equation, man. Get out of here. Fletcher says it was at CES where he ran into Focal. Seen the carpet on their new speaker. Yeah, Fletcher is referring to their new speakers having carpet on it. Obviously, no one at Focal owns a cat. Yeah, Fletcher, when I saw that speaker, I think my comment was 1992 to 1995 Honda Civic interior. That's what it looked like to me. I saw it in person. It does look nicer in person, but yeah, it is 100% 92, 95 Honda Civic interior gray. Daniel says, need you to review Dr. Sue's new supercharged dual 15 sub. I don't review subwoofers over 100 pounds. I've sent also Sue Research 3 or 4 emails that have never responded to me. I think Sue Research is very happy working with Audioholics exclusively and no one else. At this point, that is another brand I would not review for. Unless the review request came from them, as well as with an apology for just ignoring all my attempts to make contact with them. You know, I'm not like a bitter person, but there's only 52 weeks in a year. You know, so why should I review for a brand that doesn't care about me or doesn't want to work with me or has shown me the cold shoulder in the past? You know, when there are so many other brands that you know, kind of send an email with a smile and they make the experience a positive and uplifting and a happy one. Why would, and because you guys got to remember, I do this shit for free. Like, this is all free. I will not tolerate a shred of disrespect. A shred. Why should I? The whole thing's free. Well, you know, I guess technically they have to pay to ship it to me and they have to pay the return shipping. Okay. I don't charge them a penny to make the review. I don't use an affiliate link, which would come out of their pocket if I did, right? Someone's got to pay the commission. I don't use affiliate links. I don't ask to keep the product, nothing. So if someone gives me the cold shoulder a bunch of times, or if they're kind of rude with me in an interaction, or, you know, treat me like they think they're better than me, they can fucking suck it as far as I'm concerned. There's like thousands of brands I can review for. Thousands of brands. Doesn't matter to me. Feliciano says he just grounded some coffee beans. Nice. Coffee with Nemo's live stream. Yeah, I just had an espresso myself this morning, and I did grind the coffee beans also. Fun fact, guys, Fletcher Munson, who's in the chat, who just commented, he's the one that recommended the coffee beans that I use, and they are phenomenal. They are so good. They are so good. All right, where did I leave off? JHM says handling of delicate packages. I feel like that's how you typed it, you know, with a little like eye look. Yeah, that was a little bit of a, should we say, was that maybe a Freudian slip, you know, maybe. I don't know what's on my mind, you know, I don't know. 15th level paladin said, I got up from my semi-nap to comment that the Focal story was hilarious. And I will keep that in mind when I deal with them, meaning I will not deal with them. No, you know, look, if you like an analytical presentation, they make a great speaker. I like Focal speakers. I still own my Aria 906, and I still recommend Focal speakers to people when it's relevant. I would never make the audience pay the price for me being salty with a brand at all, you know? And we call that professionalism, right? Like, my lack of relationship or poor relationship with the brand has nothing to do with what I'm going to recommend. If you tell me, hey, I like a sound that is fairly detailed, give me a little bit more detail than would maybe be considered neutral. I don't want to spend more than, say, $2,500. I want a speaker that looks good, comes with a few color options, is from a major brand. I don't mind if the mid-range is a little bit dry, as long as it's very open. I don't need the most bass. I'd prefer bass that is lighter, quicker, more articulate. I'd be like, brother, you need the Focal Aria Evo X. That's what I would recommend to you, you know? Adam Carver says he's got the Yamaha RX V6A and can accommodate 2 subs. He's just not a fan of big subs. And he's just getting the upgrade bug. I could help you with that, Adam. I tend to review subs that are small to medium size mostly. I think you might be more like me, whereas I don't think you perhaps hate large subs. How I am is I love what big subs do. I love the forcefulness of an 18-inch subwoofer, sure, or the sense of scale a big 100-pound box can bring to the table. I just don't want to live with a giant subwoofer in my home. I don't like the way it looks and how much attention it draws to itself, aesthetically, how heavy they are and things like that. Good news for you, there are many phenomenal, medium-sized or small-sized subwoofers in the marketplace today. Do me a favor and let me know what your budget is, and if it's music primarily or theater, what are a couple things that are really important to you, and I will give you some recommendations, Adam. Jonathan Stout says, yo, Nemo, shout out from Australia. What's up? What's up? I've never been to Australia. I want to check it out sometime. Have you had much experience with musical fidelity? Zero. unfortunately, zero. I hope to change that at some point. He just purchased an M5 SI running Polk R600s and a REL 1205. Sounds so good. So good. My mom wants to get a pair. Nice. That doesn't surprise me based on how I've heard musical fidelity described by Zero Fidelity. I would imagine it would be a great fit for the Polk Reserve range, and the great option, by the way. The Polk Reserve range is such a good range of speakers. It never rises to the popularity I think it should have. It is just so darn good, though. That's a great combination, and you're using one of my favorite 12-inch subwoofers. Winning combination all around, I believe. $67 people in here, guys. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record. The like button helps YouTube distribute the video to more people. So please, please, please click the like button if you haven't already. It'll have the algorithm show it to more of my subscribers. The algorithm does not show this to all of my subscribers, just a very small collection. Getting a little stretching. JHM says, what are some suggestions if I like my OG KEF R3 and value sense of scale, impact, clarity, and imaging, also want more refined treble than the R3? I never heard the R3. So I'm going to use the R3 Meta as my reference. You value sense of scale, impact, clarity, and imaging. I'm willing you know, JHM, you've been around for a long time. You know how this hobby works. If you generally want to feel a big upgrade, you got to pull out your wallet. I'm guessing you're willing to spend double. If you are, Radiant Acoustic Clarity 6.2 is kind of what you're describing. Arundel 1528, if they're not too large, are kind of what you're describing. Now, if for some reason you're like, can I accomplish any of this without raising my budget? Kind of. Next week's review will be for the Philharmonic BMR. The Philharmonic BMR is fantastic. It's more neutral than the R3 Meta. The R3 Meta has some warmth in the mid-range, and the Philharmonic BMR does not. It is very neutral from top to bottom, but it's a bigger speaker, meaning it's going to have a bigger sense of scale. It is going to sound more effortless, and its bass is more powerful, more impactful, and more effortless. The Philharmonic BMR is the Arundel 1528 for the person that can't afford the Arundel 1528 or feels the Arundel 1528 is too large. Now, when a speaker is as neutral as the Philharmonic BMR or the Arundel 1528, some people may be felt wanting some tonal richness. Some people may feel it is too dry if your amplification is also dead neutral and your DAC is dead neutral also. So just do keep that in mind. If your entire signal chain is very neutral, you will be going more towards neutrality. If your signal chain has some warmth to it, the Philharmonic BMR is probably the cheapest speaker that you might consider an upgrade. Otherwise, the Radiant Acoustic Clarity 6.2 gets my vote. Where did I leave off? Jonathan South says, pretty stoked my mom wants a pair now. Crazy lucky to have my mom gets into it. Yeah, that is cool. That is super cool. If the family can enjoy the same hobby as you, that's amazing. That is amazing. Fletcher says, the thing with cables is you can spend moderate money and get 95%. The super high-end price are for those with too much money who pay too much for everything. A lot of Asian markets. Yeah, some of the Asian markets have some very expensive things, but in Asian culture, brand loyalty is a thing. It's a big thing, you know? So I could see that playing a role there. Feliciano says, name of the beans. Fletcher, can you drop the name of the coffee beans? I don't want to get up and have to check. Feliciano wants to know which coffee beans it was that you, he already beat me to it. Lavazza Italian roast. Yeah. Thank you, Fletcher. Yeah, you beat me to it. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, the Lavazza Italian roast, and I get them off of Amazon, Feliciano. They're great. Uncola says, that's too bad. Sue ignored your emails. I remember years back, I called for a Hawaii shipping quote and Dr. Sue himself answered the phone. Also, I like that they use lamp cord cable in their rooms. I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about like at audio shows? That's interesting. Feliciano says, thanks, Fletcher. I've had that coffee. I purchased it from Amazon. It is really good. Cool. Yama says, I just want to see the concept he went with. You can scan through the video. A full watch isn't required, to be honest. I scanned through myself, LOL. So I'm just not into it, bro. It's just like DIY just isn't for me. I'm sorry, man. So Adam Carver, just to remind everyone, he was saying he wanted dual subs. He's got a 2.1 system right now for music, and he uses an SVS SB1000. Adam, is there a budget for these dual subs? That's really important to know if there's a budget. And if there's anything you like about your SB1000 Pro, or if you just view it as a sub that just does bass and that's kind of it, you know, let me know. Yama says part of the reason people don't click the like button is a lot of people don't actually log in or even have a YouTube account while viewing live content. You can't click like unless you're logged in. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. That's okay. You know, I'm sure too, some people are, you know, maybe driving in their car listening or something like that, or, you know, it's okay. JHM says, thanks for the detailed Rex. He did watch the Radiant review with great interest. Looking forward to next week's BMR review. Yeah, JHM, also, if you want to see another review of those Radiant acoustics, my set went to ABX Audiophile, so he should be reviewing them at some point. And he's cool because I think he tries out speakers in 2 different rooms, and his main room is a lot bigger than mine, so sometimes he has like not a different take necessarily, but he can kind of speak about them in a way I kind of can't because I'm just limited to my one room. Adam, I need to know your budget, brother. I know it's for a music system. There we go. So the Speedwoofer 10E, oh, I see what you're saying. I misunderstood. You have 2 systems. Okay, so the Speedwoofer 10E is for your HT system, 1200 or less for the HT sub upgrade. Yeah, second 10E, bro, for sure. For sure. Unless you're like hunting more extension, because the 10E is relatively compact. It's not going to do a whole lot. It's not going to be flat down to 20 hertz. Let me just look up for a second real quick. So you don't want big subs, so you don't want something like the 12S. So here's the reality, Adam. Big subs, sorry, small subs with big output and deep extension do exist. They're just very expensive. It's like if you want a razor thin laptop that's really powerful with an amazing graphics card, they exist, but they're a lot more expensive than the big tower or the thick laptop. I think your best bet is to get a second 10E. If you're like, no, I want more extension, I want better bass quality, I want a fuller sound. Let me look up what these cost now. I don't think they're going to be cheap enough. Yeah, like even like the Rhythmic L12 is $791 now. A pair of those would be, you know, about like $1,500, you know, and change. So, you don't really have like a lot of small affordable options these days that are going to bring more to the table than your 10E. So I think a second 10E is the easy choice. Yama, I've never seen Stealth Acoustics at a trade show. I only go to Axpona though. It's the only show I really go to. Like THE show is local to me. It's like 30 minutes away and I don't even go to that one. The bow says, does sound emanate from a subwoofer in all directions equally? Asking because I have one RSL 12S now and I'm going to get another one. But the way the front stage of my home theater works, I would like to point the subwoofer at each other between two bookshelves on stands about 8 feet apart. If you point the subs at each other, like line of sight, you might run into some cancellation. Or you might run into a peak. Either way, you could try it. You know what I mean? There are ways to make that work. So, like, yes and no, bro. Like, yeah, like in an open field, bass is mostly omnidirectional, but not in a room. Like, your room is going to make the bass directional. And it's really easy to prove. Like, take your subwoofer where it is now and just put it on the other side of the room. And you'll see it's very obviously the bass is no longer coming from where it used to, and now it's coming from another direction. Bass in a room is directional. Now, we can sit here and be all intellectual about it and be like, no, the bass is still omnidirectional. It's just how the room interacts with it and the room modes. Who cares? At the end of the day, it's going to sound more directional. Bass in a room is going to be more directional, just like mid-range, just like anything else. It's not going to be as directional, perhaps, as like a point source, but it is directional in a room, yes. That doesn't mean you can't do what you're trying to do, though. You might have better luck pointing them out away from each other than pointing them towards each other, by the way. Adam Carver, are rhythmic subs good? I don't mind saving longer for quality subs. Adam, you must be a new subscriber. I've described rhythmic subwoofers as world class. They make some of the best subwoofers in the world, in my opinion, if sound quality is a top concern when purchasing a subwoofer. Now, the Rhythmic L12 is a sealed subwoofer, so it's not going to have as much output. It's not going to get as loud as your vented RSL subwoofer. Vented subs generally play twice as loud. That is important to keep in mind. But the Rhythmic L12 is going to have better transient response, deeper extension, better note-to-note distinction, better handling of delicate passages, and simply more bass fidelity overall. Rhythmic makes an outstanding SQ subwoofer that still reaches very low in terms of bass extension. Fun fact, guys, every single Rhythmic subwoofer that has the Rhythmic name extends flat down to 20 hertz. That is an internal goal Rhythmic has with all of their subwoofers, and I feel like they should market that a little bit better because that is amazing. All Rhythmic subwoofers that bear their name are flat down to 20 hertz. Now, do keep in mind, the little ones, like the L12, or the F12, they're not going to be able to play those 20 hertz notes as loud as one of their larger subwoofers, like an E15 HB2, for example, or an F18, but they can get flat down to 20 hertz. I think a pair of L12s is the first big upgrade without changing the physical size of the cabinet. The L12 is going to be a huge sound quality upgrade, huge, much fuller, a little bit of a warmer sound too, actually. Quicker transient response, but it's not going to necessarily sound quicker because you're going to be gaining a lot of extension. And when you gain a lot of extension, those deeper bass notes have a time element to them. So it might, in some ways, you might think like, oh, this is like a little more tuneful, a little slower. But pay attention to the transient response. Pay attention to the start-stop behavior, and you'll see it's actually a quicker sound. It's very interesting. Very good subwoofer. Yeah, I know the bow. I had a 12S in for review. They're very deep. I know. That's why I suggested instead of pointing them at each other, you can keep them in the same orientation, but just point them away from each other. That might be a better option. Just try it. LS3 says, "Are you an engine guy?" That's an engine. It's a good engine. My buddy just bought a sand car with a supercharged LS in it. Makes like 800 horsepower. Brunoco Terra, any new thoughts after a while? I sent it back. It was just a review sample. I didn't have it for too long. I had it for about maybe 4 or 5 months. It's a great amp. Ask me a question about it. You know what I mean? Look, here's the takeaway for the Brunoco Terra. It's for the guy that doesn't want a super rich, warm tubey sound. No, it's for the guy that likes the benefits tube amps bring to the table in terms of like the little bit more realism, holographics, a little bit of tonal richness, but not a ton. Its delivery is more neutral for a tube amp. It's not neutral, but for a tube amp, it's more neutral. Its resolution is more on par with solid state. It's bringing a lot of clarity and a lot of resolution to the table with a tremendous amount of airspace and separation. So if you value really great imaging, really great separation between everything, and a really big sense of scale, the Brunoco Terra is fantastic. And the build quality, the chassis, it's incredible. I think you're getting a lot for your money with the Brunoco Terra. Uncola says it's expensive to break Hoffman's iron law. Yeah, it is, because it requires a lot of power. It requires a lot of excursion, and it requires a cabinet that can handle that ultimately. And it requires generally a lot of DSP. Yeah, it is expensive to break Hoffman's iron law. That is true. They can be broken, but it's going to cost money. Just look, the small subs with the most output, like the JL E112, it's almost like $3,000. The Perlison 12-inch is like $5,000. Those are the small subs that have a ton of output. And then there's small subs that they don't have a ton of output. They have like a ton of extension though. Those are still really expensive. KEF KC92, KEF KC62. They can't get super loud like a JL Audio E112, and they're still really expensive because they do still extend low. Possibly. That's this guy's username. His username is Possibly. That's crazy. Nemo, been listening for 2 years now and appreciate your honesty. Nice. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. He owns KLH Model 5s. Everyone says REL 9899 classics. But what would you buy for music? A little TV, movies? WWN buy? What does that mean? WWN buy. Oh, what would Nemo buy? That's funny. That is funny. So look, the REL Classic 98 or 99 was literally designed for your speakers. Like, that's just the truth. They were. I talked to REL about it. They saw the popularity of them. They got a lot of requests. And I think John Hunter's maybe always wanted to do this project of the Classic series, perhaps. And with the emergence of these modern vintage speakers gaining more and more popularity, he's like, I'm going to do it. And he did it. I think Classic is pretty good for a mixed system too, because Classic is a little bit bigger. It's a sealed sub only. There's no passive radiator. So your Classic 98 is going to actually have a fuller sound than something like your T9X. Your Classic 98 may even be able to play louder than something like your REL T9X. It is a warmer sound. It's a tonally richer sound. It's intentionally designed to sound a little bit more relaxed. But if you like the tonality of your Model 5s and you want bass to match and just build on that, yeah, that's the Classic 98, Classic 99. Now, if you're like, hey, I like what I have, but I wouldn't mind bass that's a little drier, then Series HT, you could do Series HT. It's not going to be a tonal match. You're going to be kind of changing the delivery of your system. It might clash a little bit even. But yeah, I think Classic 99 was made for you. Go demo one. They're so popular. Unless you live in an obscure region, you should be able to demo one. And I'm pretty sure if you buy one from REL, I think you have like 60 days to return it. Let's check. Let's go to their website and I can take a toot while I do that. Okay, warranty information maybe. North America. I can't find it. They just redid their website, so I can't remember where everything is. But it's like you get an in-home trial, like for sure if you're in the US. Like feel free to email them or like peek around on their website, but you can buy it and try it in your system without committing to keeping it, which is pretty cool. A lot of companies offer that these days, So yeah, I would look into that. I think that is the subwoofer for you. Dick Trickle, what a great name, says, what's up, bro? What's up, Dick? So we're at 109 minutes. This is generally where the comments start to slow down. This is generally where these live streams reach their natural endpoint. I could keep going if you guys keep going with the questions, but I'm going to give you guys maybe a minute or so to see if there's any other questions that are going to come in. But it's interesting. I've been doing these live streams for a while, and it's always around the just as it just starts to approach 2 hours, an hour and 50 minutes, 2 hours, or 2 hours and 10 minutes. Within 20 minutes, sorry, plus or minus 10 minutes of 2 hours is generally the natural endpoint where things start to slow down. The Bow says, thank you for the response. No problem, brother. C says, greetings from Holland. What's up, my man? I've never been there either. Adam says, thank you for the info, Nemo. First time poster here. Hey, no problem, brother. No problem. Yama says it's off topic time. LOL. You guys can ask me off topic questions. I don't mind personal questions. It doesn't mean I'm going to answer every single one of them, you know, but I don't mind. One time, even someone asked me, like legit in the comments section, guys, of a speaker, this guy asked me if I was gay. And I was like, bro, hide your children. I'm about to get a little nasty here. I'm going to give you a second before I get nasty. I'm going to say bad words. I told this guy, I was like, bro, what's wrong with you? You don't even know who I am. You think it's okay to ask a stranger how they have sex? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Are you crazy? Like, I don't even know what, like, I'm not offended if someone thinks I'm gay. Like, you know, that's like not a big deal. But like, you should have some rapport with someone before you ask some weird shit like that. Like, that is a very private topic, you know, like where you put your wiener and stuff like, and what you like to do in the bedroom. I don't think that's a topic two strangers should be talking about. I don't know what that dude's intentions were, and I'm not fucking interested either. I thought that shit was fucking wild. That's the only time someone asked me a personal question, and I got kind of mad, you know. I thought that was very bizarre to ask someone that. I also feel like that's not. I don't know. It was just weird. And for the record, I'm not. I like women. Women are amazing. I like a lot about women except some of their attitudes. You know what I'm saying? But that's another story. Dick Trickle's such a funny name, Dick Trickle. If you had to buy over, what preamp amp combo would you buy? High possibility, I would just buy the Kinky Studio stuff again because I really like it. High possibility, I might buy the live preamp and their matching monoblocks because for I think in total it's like $1,400 more, and you are getting a little bit more for your money. So maybe one of those two, or who knows? Maybe I'd go like just integrated and get like an AccuPhase or something, like for the steez. Fun fact: one of the reasons I don't upgrade to like an AccuPhase, and one of the reasons I like using Kinky Studio is high-end enough that I can enjoy it. It's a very high-end sound, actually. But because they're from China, and a lot of people view it as chi-fi, no one views it as like, oh, Nemo's using esoteric gear. His reviews are not relevant to me. I'm not using this like really expensive Luxman, for example. But by using like Kinky Studio, I can have something close to the Luxman sound, and people still feel like it's relevant and relatable because it's like somewhat affordable and it's from China, even though it's like not cheap. Like my Kinky Studio preamps and my monoblocks, if you include just the XLR cable between the two, it's over $7,000. But no one ever tells me like, oh, you're like using too expensive of an amp with these speakers. No one ever says that to me because they're Chinese amps. So it's like win-win. Yama says, did you ever get that sparkling water sponsorship? No, dude. No one ever reached out to me. I'm still, guys, I'm down. I'll plug some sparkling water. If anyone knows anyone at one of these sparkling water companies, I spend like $200 a month on sparkling water. JHM says, random, but I love the bamboo plant behind you. Fun fact, I stole that and it's fake. That was in my boss's office at work. And I just thought it'd be like really funny to just steal it one day. So I fucking stole it. I just took it and I put it in my car and I took it home and I just waited for him to notice. I work with my friends. My friends own the company I work for. And we're all buddies. And like 2 weeks later, I walked into his office. He's the CFO, so he's like the numbers guy, you know, the bean counter. I walked into his office. I'm like, you notice anything different about your office? He's like, yeah, someone stole my bamboo tree. I know. And I'm like, you're not going to make a fuss about it? He's like, I'm too busy, man. I don't care. And like, I totally did not get the reaction I wanted. And I told him, I'm like, I have it. It's at home. Do you want me to bring it back? And he's like, I don't care, man, but it was really expensive. I guess it was like $160 or something for the fake one. But yeah, so now it lives in my home because I stole it. Sam Online says, do you go fishing? I don't fish, but my friends do. Like when we go boating in Havasu, usually at night, some of the guys like to go fishing and I'll go with them and we'll like kick it on the docks while they fish and shoot the shit, but I don't fish myself. Yama says, what the fuck? That's crazy. Yeah, it is, bro. It is crazy for someone to ask that question. Oh, JHM says he remembers seeing that comment thread. It was surreal. Yeah, I mean, Yama says he was probably a troll. No, Yama, I promise you he wasn't a troll. Like you could tell like it was a very real question because he was trying to like ask it in a polite way, you know? But he was not a troll. He didn't seem like a troll at all. That's what made it even weirder. 15th level paladin says I like to do it in the kitchen and put it in a Vitamixer. That sounds dangerous, brother. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Yama says I would have just retorted with "Yo, mama" comment. I do that sometimes. Like there's been a few times. One guy even unsubscribed from me because I took a shot at someone's mom. Like this guy was like, "Dude, your content is so boring. You suck." He was like talking all this trash, and he was like, "Oh man, like you should get a life, this and that." And I think I said something like, I can't remember like the details. Like my like mom insult was appropriate, like it was witty, and then like some person that I've never seen comment before, but he was subscribed. He was like, "How dare you bring someone's mother into this? Like this is so rude and disrespectful. I'm unsubscribing." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Don't let the door hit you on the way out." It was really funny. I've like told people before, like, but their mom's making me a sandwich in the morning, like implying that I fucked her the night before, and that's always fun. Fletcher says, I just want a woman who can do math in parallel park. I That's funny. They can do math. They just do what's called girl math on purpose. They do that on purpose to like trick us into like their purchases and how they spend money. Adam says he's using Fossey and SMSL products in his system. That's a more clarity focused sound, detail focused sound. That's okay though. They make decent stuff. I don't love it personally because the inexpensive Class D amps, they can sound really good, but they have a narrow window where they sound their best. If that narrow window where they sound their best happens to be the same volume where you do most of your listening, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. But if you like to listen at a lower volume or a louder volume, at a lower volume, you're going to feel a loss of dynamics. And at a louder volume, you're going to feel you're losing soundstage and imaging. That's just inherent with all of the little inexpensive Class D components. And that's why you run into people that are like, I love them. They're amazing. They punch above their weight. And then conversely, you run into a bunch of people that are like, these things are junk. What are you talking about? It all comes down to if your listening habits fall within their narrow, sweet spot of where they sound their best. See, are you serious? He's saying in Holland they have a politician who's named Tiny Cox. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Oh my God. That is amazing. I love that. England has someone, I don't know if it's in Parliament or one of their leaders. His name's Keir. And in my language, that means wiener. And that is hilarious to me. It means wiener or gay. It's really funny every time I see his name. Adam says Chi-Fi can be great if set up properly. Yeah, anything can be good if set up properly, or like good enough, you know, or good for like what it is or for what it cost. Uncola says YouTube comments are full of toxic trolls. They can be, bro. They can be. I just had one today. I'll read it to you guys. It was on my review of the Cerwin Vega LS35A. Where is it? Look at this. This is a real comment, guys. This review provided no useful information and is complete BS. That's like all he said. To which I replied, I said something like, criticism without context, clarification, or solution is just as useless. And then I blocked him. My block list is long. I just block people like that. I don't care. I don't have time. Howard Mims says, I have a Blue Sound 2i. My system sits around 8 or 9K. Is the power supply upgrade a big notice of difference? And what are the main differences? Yeah, I think so. So I had a 2i. I did the power supply upgrade. I liked it so much. I later upgraded to the N130 so I could use USB and the power supply upgrade. I made a whole video on it. Howard, I use the LHY power supply upgrade that's sold from Vinshine Audio, and I use the LHY 25VA power supply. Do not go on Alibaba and buy the stuff. I talked to Alvin about this, and I was like, hey, like, is it just like, are these just gray market dealers? And he's like, no, they're fake. And I was like, really? I was like, are they just using a similar case? Does LHY use a popular case design? And he's like, no, it's worse than that. LHY designed their own case actually for their power supply. It's just heavily ripped off. He's like, there are some gray market dealers on Alibaba, but there's also a lot of fakes. So he's like, people should not buy from Alibaba. So I'm just passing that along. But yeah, darker background is mainly what I noticed. More holographics is what I noticed. It was a very worthwhile upgrade for the $300 or so that it cost. It was remarkable. Now, with that said, the Blue Sound Node 2i is very old, and mine started skipping and causing issues. So I would suggest you upgrade to an N130 first, use USB to your DAC, and then do the LHY PSU upgrade, because it would be a shame if you spent the $300 like I did, and then your Node 2i, being as old as mine probably is, starts failing on you, and then you have to buy a new node and a new power supply upgrade because the board is not the same. You can use the same 25VA PSU from LHY on the N130, but you'd need a new board. So totally up to you. If your Node 2i is rocking just fine, by all means do the power supply upgrade first. And then just know if you do decide to upgrade to the N130 and use USB, you'd have to replace the board. Yama says, bro, never pay attention to people who threaten to unsub. I don't give a shit. Some people will dislike a video and unsub just because you use an iPhone or Android phone. Some people are more sensitive than a dial gauge. Yeah, this is true. Some people are very sensitive. The hobby is part of their identity. The products they like are part of their identity. It's really sad. These are mentally unstable people, in my opinion. These are people who may be going in the direction of addiction more than hobby, and that's not good. These are people who need to find something more important, I think, to value in their life than hi-fi. Hi-fi is good. It's good to have hobbies. It should not be your identity. It really shouldn't. Adam says, I'm using their DACs. I don't have any of the amps. Oh, okay, cool. C says, Keir Starmer. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Keir means wiener or gay in my language. Hilarious. Keir's the prime minister. Okay. So his name is Wiener Starmer to me. Bryson Hicks, what preamp did you consider a good pairing for the live micro DAC? I don't really look at it that way, bro. I don't look at like preamps being paired with DACs, but you could use Live's own preamp, I suppose. I'm not a big like preamp reviewer. All I suggest is try to match your preamp to your power amp. I'm a big believer of that. I don't like mixing and matching preamps and power amps. JHM says, follow up. Just curious why you didn't recommend Zoo DWX when I asked for an upgrade path. You said it's great for scale, and I've heard it's impactful like live music. That is all true, JHM. But the R3 Meta, that I know you have the regular R3, but I've never heard it, so I have to use the Meta. The R3 Meta does have a more refined treble region. The DWX does absolutely punch above its weight. In its cheapest configuration, the way I had it, it outperformed all the $2,500 speakers in just about all areas, except it obviously is not going to have the total bass power of something like the Bucard S400, Dynaudio Evoke 20, or R3 Meta, and it doesn't have the refinement in the treble region of the R3 Meta either. It's not a bass power speaker. Maybe with some of those crossover upgrades, it would be a good fit, but in its cheapest configuration, its treble quality is still really good, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite on the level of the R3 Meta. That's why I didn't mention it. I didn't view it as a competitor in that regard, but for sense of scale, yeah, it's got it. Yeah, effortless sound. Oh yeah. Also, DWX tonally, most speakers don't do this. Very few speakers do this, but DWX puts a little bit of a magnifying glass on the mid-range, but then again, so does the Clarity Acoustic 6.2, just a little bit. It could be a win for you, maybe with one of the more expensive crossover upgrades. I just haven't heard that. C says, indeed, Kier is now one of the leading leaders in Europe. I don't know anything about him besides his name is Wiener. Yeah. Fletcher says a Rogue RP5 preamp is excellent. Tubes, new 4K, used 2K, outstanding customer service, made in the USA. Yeah, Fletcher plays with a lot of preamps. We talk a lot, like in emails. He keeps me up to date on his purchases. He's tried a lot of stuff. I would definitely take his advice if you're curious about that. Yama says, any Yamaha products on the reviews on the horizon? No, which is weird because they reached out to me after my Axpona video. In my Axpona video, I said something like, here's the Yamaha room, guys. I didn't stop or ask for a business card. I figured they're too big of a company and it just wouldn't work. And they reached out. They were like, hey, like, no, we're not like too big to work with you. Like, we love working with reviewers. We don't care like how big or small your channel is. I was like, oh crap, okay. And he's like, yeah, just give me a little bit of time. We're between like two shows, and I'll have the person that handles that reach out. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, sorry, I misspoke. Sorry for assuming. And then the girl reached out, and we went back and forth a few times. And she's like, well, let me know which amp you want. I let her know, and crickets. I sent a follow-up email, and again, crickets. So I don't chase companies. You know what I mean? Again, there's only 52 weeks in a year where I can make videos. They weren't rude to me. They're not on my shit list by any means. Maybe my email just got lost. Maybe she's on maternity leave. Maybe she's locked out of her email. Maybe she quit. I don't know. But I can't chase a company like that. I sent 2 emails. Both got ghosted right around the time the review sample was supposed to be sent. You know, I checked my spam folder. Maybe my email's in her spam folder. I don't know. But I probably won't send a third follow-up. Maybe I will. I don't know. But there's so many other brands that, you know, don't ghost me. So, you know, it is what it is, right? JHM says, amazing. Thank you. Love hearing from someone with data points. I think he's talking to Fletcher. Yama says, Yamaha is chill, bro. Why you think I'm a fanboy? Yeah, I understand. You shouldn't have to deal with that kind of service. Yeah, it's not a big deal. I don't take it personal. You know, again, maybe it's just a mishap. But like, how many emails am I supposed to send? You know what I mean? If they stop communicating with me, like it reaches a point where it's like, I don't want to pester them, right? Like balls in their court, I guess. If they email me and they're like, hey, sorry, none of our review samples were available. I thought I sent you an update. I realized I didn't. We're ready to move forward. I'd be like, cool, yeah, let's do it. No problem. Like that happens sometimes. AA says, any Soul Note reviews? I never heard of them. Don't know what they are. Howard gave a thumbs up, Howard. Yeah, AA, I don't know who Soul Note is. I'm sorry, bro. Yeah. Yeah. I love how I opened it up for like any random question. The only thing you guys asked if I go fishing. No one cares about Nemo's personal life. That's okay. I kind of prefer that. Like when people start asking me personal questions in the comment sections of like videos, it feels a little bit awkward. Again, I don't mind them like in the Discord or in the live stream, but I always think it's weird when people ask me like, well, what would you do? What would you buy? And I'm like, well, I don't know how much that matters. Like, unless we got the same personal taste, right? Like, I don't know. Oh, JHM says no. He was thanking me for the detailed response to his question. Oh yeah, no problem, bro. No problem. Yama says I will turn the volume on my Yamaha amp down to half in solidarity for their poor customer service. LOL. Rock and Roll says, what condoms do you recommend? None. Risk it for the biscuit, brother. Go bareback. That's my advice. Yeah, no, you should wear the one that fits. So like for me, I use like I order custom sized ones because I need like extra small. I don't know what country you're in or what units you use, but I'll use centimeters just to help my like international boys. We're sitting at like 3 centimeters, so like I need like custom ones, you know. Yeah, it's a tough life out here, man. Yamaha makes solid products though. I know. JHM says, any thoughts on Burson stuff? No, I view Burson as mostly like desktop audio, and I'm not into desktop audio. Like that's why I'm not interested in like the SMSL stuff or like the little Fosse stuff or even the shit stuff. I don't have a desktop rig. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. Dick Strickle says, bareback hard in the paint. Yes, sir. Possibly says, Nemo, never been to an audio show. You think it's worth going to one? And would you recommend one? It depends. Like, I go for such a different reason. I go to like meet the audience. I go to socialize with you guys. Meeting the manufacturers and brands is secondary for me. I'm not even there for the gear. I go for the people. Like, I like the social aspect of it. It's just like fun to interact. It's like fun for me. Like when I'm walking through the halls, and people are like, hey, Nemo. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And they're like, oh, I'm one of your subscribers. I'm like, oh, cool. And I usually tell them like, hey, like if you have any questions, like you can ask me. Like I'm here for you guys. I'm not here for like the rooms. I don't care. And it's a bummer because very few people will do that because they're like, oh, I thought you were like busy, or I saw you talking to a manufacturer. I didn't want to bother you. But I always try to say, if you see me talking to a manufacturer and you want to interrupt, please interrupt. I don't care. I can talk to the manufacturers anytime I want through email, or I can call them. I have their phone numbers. I go to these trade shows to meet the audience. So you guys are always welcome to interrupt me no matter what I am doing. Even if I'm filming, I only film for like a short period of time. You wait half a second until I'm done filming and I put my phone down and ask me any question you want. I don't care. I'm a very social person, like face to face. If you would like the show, hard to say. It's cool. It's fun. There's a lot of gear there. There's a lot of rooms. None of the rooms are perfect, so it's tough to make a buying decision based on the shows, I would say. But if you just like you want to go somewhere and see like a ton of gear, like, yeah, why not? Yama, you're using big words. I don't know even how to say that word. Polyisoprene. I don't even know what that is, brother. What is that? Fletcher says he smoked a Proac woofer ordered directly from England. They were great to deal with. Nice, nice. He says he's interested in your speaker chair positioning. Is it 111 an equivalent triangle? Yes. Yeah, it's 111. Yeah. I can't remember if it's 7 or 8 feet triangle, but somewhere in there. Yeah. Oh my God, polyisoprene. I can't spell it. I still don't know what that is. JHM says Burson Timekeeper amps look really solid and are really well received. Sandu at Sound News recently gave their Timekeeper Voyager high praise. Sandu's awesome. Yeah, Sandu's got a great ear. He's got a great channel. I like Sound News a lot. But yeah, JHM, I still view it as like desktop audio. It's just also if it's like a power amp, like, you know, I don't review power amps. I'll review a preamp and a power amp as a complete system, but I won't review like power amps only or preamps only. No, AA, I don't have any interest in reviewing vinyl gear. I don't have a turntable. I don't like physical media. I'm a minimalist, as you can tell by my home. I don't like having a bunch of stuff everywhere. Like, look, like that's my room. Very, very simple, very clean, not a lot going on. I don't like owning a lot of things. I don't like a lot of clutter. And I'm single. This is all me. This is not like the wife or the girlfriend. Like that's just how I like to live. Like even my media console right now, a little bit too much stuff on it. I feel like a little bit too much. Let me see what's on there. Yeah, I can maybe clean that up a little bit. Jamester says he's a huge vintage guy. Just grabbed a Harman Kardon 730. He's sold on it. It's a dual mono, excellent separation and clarity. Yeah, like old gear can be great. It can be fantastic. Like especially if it was like kind of more expensive for its time, relatively speaking. Like old cheap stuff, probably not that great because the modern cheap stuff has gotten really good. But old like mid-level and up gear, a lot of it should still be great. AA says, I like things simple too. I also happen to own about 2,000 records and 500 CDs. Oh my God. Yeah, I would not enjoy. That's too much physical stuff. Yama says, slight OCD, nothing too crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I got a touch of OCD, not a lot. Like, if I like touch this ear, I don't have to go and touch this ear too. You know what I mean? I don't have to like balance things out. I just like my home being clean and simple. AA says he likes my space. Thank you, bro. Thank you. That means a lot to me. JHM says, any pets or do you want pets? No, I don't have any pets. I love animals. I love them. But you can't like have a room like this and have pets and not have like stains, marks, fur, fuzz everywhere. You just can't. I love cats, but if you have cats, then you have the shitter box that's going to smell like shit. I don't care what anyone says. Anytime I go to one of my friends' house that has cats, I can smell the litter box. The people who live there just get used to it. And I don't even have people over much, but that's just a no-go for me. Cats can also be a little bit destructive. And then dogs, I love dogs, but then I got to take them outside to take a shit. Sometimes I have accidents inside. I did have a buddy. He called me one time and he was like getting out of a real bad relationship, and I have an extra room upstairs. He was like, "Hey, bro, can I crash at your place for a little bit? I just had a nasty breakup. I just need some help." And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And he's like, "I have my dog with me. Is it okay?" It was a golden doodle, a mini golden doodle, and I was like, "Yeah, no problem, whatever." And it was a lot of fun, like living with him and his dog for like 3 or 4 months until he could get back on his feet. But even in those 3 or 4 months, like, bro, his dog threw up on my carpet many times, destroyed one of my headsets, destroyed one of my hats. Like, animals are destructive, bro. And I don't want to deal with that. So if I want to like play with a dog, I'll just go to one of my friends' houses. All my friends have dogs. I love dogs, but like, I don't need to own one, right? Like, I don't know. Adam says he likes the minimalist setup. Thank you, bro. C says he has real OCD. Thank you. Well, look, OCD can get very real. I have 2 friends that have really bad OCD. One of them was able to grow past it. The other one couldn't. Let me give you an example of what I consider real OCD, like potentially disability level OCD. My buddy accidentally like hit a parking block when he was parking. Like he hit the gas too much. He didn't realize the parking block was there and he drove over it, but it was like off to the side. It was like this parking lot was designed terribly. And basically just his driver's side wheel went over the parking block and it kind of like dented like the bottom of his car a little bit. That night, he couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., he woke up. Guys, he woke up, got into his car, drove back to the parking lot, and had to like drive over the parking block to try to like damage his car on the other side so that they would be even. His OCD was the point that it was destructive. To me, that's like severe. You know what I mean? Then I have had like other friends that if they think the dish cap of their like soap is open, like, and they're not at home, it like really like fucks them up. But they're able to get over that. Yama says no balance is important. I only date twins. LOL. What the? I have no idea what you're saying, bro. You've been saying some shit. C says if you want to know about OCD, watch the movie The Aviator with DiCaprio. I know about real OCD. I've had friends that you have to get in there. I had a friend who, when you got into his car, you had to like tap your feet together so the dirt would come off, but a certain number of times. And like one time I busted his balls about it, and he's like, if we're going to be friends, like, I just need you to cooperate, please. Like, I don't want to be like this. I just am like this. And I was like, okay. And he would like have me do weird stuff, and I would just go along with it. I don't think that's the right thing to do, but I'm not his therapist. It's not my job to help him overcome his OCD. So I just complied with it, and he was a cool guy. Yeah, Adam nailed it. With pets, you can't just up and leave. You have to plan out vacations and such. Yeah, I like to have maximum autonomy. That's why I'm single, no pets, no dogs, no kids, no nothing. I can do anything I want anytime I want. Guys, if I want to have ice cream for dinner, I'm going to fucking have ice cream for dinner. If I want to go to Mexico tomorrow, I'll go to Mexico tomorrow. I'm a very nimble person, and that's how I like to live. It's not for everyone. I get that. Some people don't like to live on their own. Some people like a loud house with a lot of ruckus and life happening. I don't. Like the idea of waking up with someone in my bed bothers me. I'm like, oh, I would never want that. I just live kind of differently than a lot of people. But who knows, you know, maybe if I met the right person, maybe I'd be open to it. I don't know. But I'm very, very happy with my life. Also, fun fact about Nemo propaganda. There's a feeling that a word I've heard other people use. I do not experience this thing. This word or this feeling called loneliness. Don't know what it is. Don't know what it is at all. Don't understand it. Don't experience it. Don't feel it at all. I don't miss people at all. Like I like them. I like people. I have like so many friends, but because like people ask me like, oh, don't you get lonely? You don't even have a dog. I'm like, no, I don't get lonely. Do you? Like this like feeling of like you want someone next to you. Like I don't have that. I don't know. Yama says cats take pride in fucking up your stuff. Yeah, they do sometimes. Yama saying one of his friends broke up with his girlfriend and left his Honda CBR 600RR with him for safekeeping for 2 weeks. He lit it up on the street every day until he took it. C says, yes, that is real OCD, what you describe. Interesting that you attract friends who have OCD. Only a handful. Most of my friends don't. What about waking up with someone under your bed? So it depends, JHM. If I had like someone who lived under my bed and their job was just to like clean my home, that would be like super cool. That would be like awesome. But if they were like some weird stalker, that it probably wouldn't turn out good for them. That'd be like a super bad idea. I'm like not the home someone wants to break into at all. If you catch my drift. Yama says loneliness is a result of a lack of purpose. Anyone who finds their purpose in life could never ever feel lonely. That makes sense. I could see that, Yama, because like I experienced loneliness when I was like a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I had my first girlfriend, I couldn't breathe if she wasn't next to me. You know, I had to have her around constantly. I would get so bored if I wasn't hanging out with my friends and stuff. Like, yeah, but as an adult, I don't experience that, you know, and I do absolutely feel a sense of purpose in my life. So there could be a lot of truth to what you're saying. Because like sometimes people think there's something wrong with me. I'm like, brother, I've seen how you interact with your woman. I assure you, I'm not the one with the problem. Like I'm happy every day. Like I live a good life every day, bro. I'm never upset because I got into some fight with someone in the morning before even coming to work. You know what I mean? I see my buddies deal with that. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to come across as like sexist. I love women. I do. What I don't support is bad relationships. And a lot of people end up in bad relationships because they're scared to be alone. You know, I have a lot of friends that are in great relationships, and great relationships can really be a beautiful thing. But me riding solo is a beautiful thing too, let me tell you. Yama says he's the opposite. He was in a relationship where he lived with his girlfriend for 5 years and never felt more lonely in his life. Yeah, I've dated girls like that. There are definitely women that are, they kind of enjoy criticizing. They enjoy ball busting a lot, a little bit toxic of a behavior, and it's terrible. AA says self-love is healthy. I agree. You got to like yourself, man. Life's too short. Yeah. Yama says soul sucking is the term. Yeah, that's a real thing. Yeah. 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 Love for yourself definitely keeps you happy. But all right, guys, I think we've got off topic enough. I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds or so to see if there's any burning desires, any last questions you guys want to get off your chest, and then we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to go play more Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Fantastic game. For anyone who has not played it, it is a phenomenally beautiful game with an amazing, amazing soundtrack. I get to enjoy it on this system where I have the Supermon Minis, Hagel H190, and Kev KC62. The TV is a LG C1 OLED, and that game is so good. Any gamers out there, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, fantastic, highly recommend. And I'm not a big gamer. I only play about 2 or 3 games a year, guys. All right, looks like we're wrapping it up. No new questions coming in. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. Next week's video will be the Philharmonic BMR. If anyone in the Discord wants an early link, you can DM me. I do have the video uploaded, and it's all ready to go already. I see everyone saying, have a good Sunday and take care, and I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. I hope you all have a great Sunday as well. Thank you for all the questions. The interaction was a good time. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoys their day. And until next time, take care, everyone.